It's time for a second CFL Thanksgiving helping. Flutie's back and intent on serving up just desserts. Pinball slash and run can carve up any team. Calgary knows it's time to cinch up its belt. Calvin is able to gobble up yards. And Jeff is not relying on a wing and a prayer to get the job done. Take your seats, please. We're ready for the second course. It's a homecoming game, and 30,000 plus in Calgary can't wait to welcome Doug Flutie back. Flutie leads the Argos, the best team in the land, against the Stampeders, who require a few more wins to wrap up first place in the West Division. Welcome now to Calgary and to our second helping on Thanksgiving Day. I'm Scott Oak. When the Stampeders lost 3 in a row and then were less than overpowering in their next 2 wins, it was all the fodder anyone required to argue they aren't the same team since Flutie left for Toronto and took with him the big play from which the Argos now benefit. Doug Flutie is unquestionably the focal point of this game. He arrived at the stadium 3 hours ago. This is a date he circled on his calendar as soon as he saw the CFL schedule. And does he miss his former mates here in Calgary? Well, look at this. About an hour and a half ago, Flutie holding in warm-ups for Calgary place kicker Mark McLaughlin. They cheered his brilliance here for 4 years. They hope they don't have to swallow it in this game. James Curry and Chris Cuthbert will have no difficulty getting into this one. James, Doug Flutie aside, if that's possible, and I don't think it is, but if it was, this is a big-time matchup.
This is the game that everyone has looked for, the rematch here on Thanksgiving. We're excited about it, and I know the players talking to them prior to the game couldn't wait on the kickoff.
Chris, the Stampeders' best chance to win this game could well be on the ground.
Wally Buono said that yesterday. He hopes to establish a better running game than the first time around against Toronto. In fact, when Calgary lost 3 straight games, the rushing kind of went south, but this guy could be the Rookie of the Year in the CFL, looking for 1,000 yards, and if Kelvin Anderson can get it going on the ground, that takes some heat off Jeff Garcia throwing the football.
Well, the Argos have 2 outstanding outside linebackers that are looking forward to trying to stop Kelvin Anderson this afternoon. Don Wilson, last week's outstanding defensive player in the CFL, has had an outstanding year along with Benson. These 2 players are going to be a big part of the defense for the Argos this afternoon.
James, less than a month ago, the Argos and Stamps clashed at Skydome, and the Argos won it by a single point to lay claim to the title of best in the CFL, and the stakes are similar in the rematch here at McMahon Stadium tonight. On the BF Goodrich TA halftime report from Calgary this evening, an up-close and personal chat with the man who's helped transform the Argos from awful to awesome. Doug Flutie sat down with us last night for a revealing conversation, and I think you'll be interested to hear his views on a number of topics. And can we be blamed for thinking we bring good weather with us? It was gorgeous in Winnipeg for yesterday's Bomber Rider game, equally so here in Calgary in the early evening. These are made-to-order conditions for a game as big as this one, a rematch of the Argos and Stamps for CFL bragging rights, at least until playoff time. 12-2 Argos versus the 11-4 Stampeders, with the Stamps in their special black jerseys. Here are Chris and James.
And Scott, there's Don Matthews. 4 games left in the regular season, and Matthews, despite the fact they've clinched first place, wants to win them all, will play all his starters for 60 minutes, trying to hit the postseason in high gear. And Wally Buono's team has not been in this position before this late in the year, still needing to win games. James, he thinks it's healthy for his team.
I think it's truly a character builder for Calgary to have to be in this type of position with Edmonton breathing down their necks late in the season. It's going to see what type of fortitude they have and if the players can rally and finish out the string undefeated.
These 2 teams have met 50 times over the years. There's Jimmy Cunningham, who was the star of the last meeting. Argos 26-23-1 against Calgary, and this is the 3rd time that the Stampeders have come out in their special black jerseys to welcome Mr. Flutie back to Calgary.
I hate the numbers from up here. It makes them so hard to read, but I think they're trying to instill that intimidation factor in Toronto. It was an outstanding defensive game the last time these 2 met, but I can look for a big offensive afternoon from both teams.
Here we go, Mark McLaughlin putting his foot onto the ball, and Pinball Clemens from his 13-yard line. And Mike Clemens breaks the tackle, and he's out over the 50-yard line to the 53, so they kick away from Jimmy Cunningham. Pinball Clemens makes his presence felt as we listen to the reaction of Doug Flutie coming back to McMahon.
61 on the kick from
Well, Doug Flutie,
First and 10
such a story here in his years in Calgary. 16 of 18 records for Calgary quarterbacks. And in the first meeting of the season against his old teammates, he came up with that 23-22 win. But James, it was tough sledding.
It was tough sledding. He had great support from his special teams to give him outstanding field position during the game.
Quick hitch to Pinball Clements, and he's into Calgary's end of the field and drilled out of bounds by Al Jordan at the 47-yard line, and that's a pickup of close to 9.
Flutie flexing his muscle there, too.
Well, there are the numbers. 140 yards short of an Argo team record for most passing yardage in a season set by Conridge Holloway in 1982.
And if anyone is going to break Conridge's record, I think Doug Flutie is the perfect man to do that. He's been a fine leader throughout his CFL career. He has come in. He's really improved this Argonaut franchise and team. The players have picked up their tempo on the field, and that's a direct reflection of Doug Flutie.
Second and a yard. And the Argos have their elephant team on. Drummond now, the setback, who gets the ball, bounces off one, and Robert Drummond with his first carry down to the 43 has a first down. Anthony McClanahan with the tackle. There's Vic Stevenson, who's had an outstanding year at right tackle for the Argos, and the whole offensive line has graded out well. Mike Kiselak's had a fine season as well. Chris Perez on the other side. Paul Mazzotti was the game breaker, as you saw earlier in that first meeting between these two teams. Mazzotti having another outstanding year and closing in on 1,000 yards. First down, and Flutie looking to the far side. There's Clemens with another catch across the 30. Pinball Clemens bouncing off the attempted tackle of McClanahan, and Pinball will move the chains.
And what the Argonauts are doing now is that they're putting 3 receivers to the field, and what they're doing is that they're running off 2, dropping Pinball back, basically a screen out wide, getting the blockers down the field, and he's picking up the yardage.
Marvin Pope has struggled for the most part this year, but we know Big Daddy can be a presence, and he is intent on turning his season around. The linebackers all have had great years, and Greg Knox, Doug Flutie's old buddy in the safety, trying to shut down the quarterback today. First down, Argos. Flutie on a roll, back to the pinball. He cuts it inside, stopped at the 21. And the Argos are marching. That's a gain of 7. Eddie Davis with the stop.
I want to go back to a point that you were making about Marvin Pope. Last year, Marvin Pope was playing out his free agency. He was in the option year of his contract, so he had a purpose to play for. He was trying to get a free agent tryout down south, and sometimes players' tempo will pick up when they do that. And he came back to Calgary after being released by the 49ers, and sometimes players are a little frustrated when that happened, and their play level suffers from that.
Second and 3, and Clemens takes it inside, and he's down to the 17, and that should be another first down for the Argos, who have really been impressive this year under Flutie in the opening drives of football games.
Well, they have, and you look at Michael Clemens. When you look at this backfield of the Argonauts, you have Robert Drummond and Michael Clemens. It's like having a Clydesdale and a Shetland pony, and the Shetland pony is getting all the work right now, but he is so difficult to corral when he's in the open field.
Pinball second in all-purpose yards in the CFL. And number 1 is Jimmy Cunningham, also in this offense. Here's Flutie looking near the end zone and overthrows the intended receiver, John Morton.
Intended for John Morton, number 82.
Morton with his second start for the Argos in last week. He's been in the Argo camp, but because of the numbers game, didn't get a chance to get in the lineup until Mike O'Shea, the Canadian, took over at middle linebacker.
Well, he was very impressive in that debut last week, also with the 6 receptions and getting the touchdown for the Argonauts in that game. And he's a converted defensive back who has really blossomed into a very solid inside receiver.
It's second and 10. No huddle offense for the Argos. Play action to Drummond, and here comes the heat. Flutie gets it away, and there is Clemens. Pinball smothered back at the 18-yard line. So he doesn't get back to the original line of scrimmage, and Marvin Pope is in the neighborhood.
Marvin Pope made the final hit on pinballs, and that's the Marvin Pope that we had grown to know over the past couple of years in the CFL. Relentless pursuit, sideline to sideline. As pinball catches the ball and breaks back inside, Daryl Hall forces him back into the pursuit, and he steps up, and Marvin Pope just levels him at the 16-yard line. You see the pressure up the middle from Brown and Johnson. A good job of not allowing Flutie outside, because that's when he's most dangerous. You want to keep his plays under 5 seconds when he's in the pocket.
Here's Mike Vanderjagt in to attempt a 25-yard field goal. Flutie placing it for his kicker, and Vanderjagt makes no mistake. So the Argos, led by Doug Flutie, 3 minutes, 59 seconds in the opening drive, and they net 3 points. Jeff Garcia at the controls for the Calgary Stampeders did not go 60 minutes in the first meeting between these two teams. His stats 11 for 21 and 140 yards in that game. He had a meeting with Wally Buono after that game and kind of cleared the air and is firmly entrenched as the #1 quarterback again. Here's Kelvin Anderson trying the reverse. Travis Moore, he may throw the football, fakes it and is pulled down. Might have been a face mask on the play as Johnny Harris, a newcomer and a nickelback in the Argos secondary, wasn't fooled but grabbed a little of that face mask.
He got a handful of the face mask on the play, but an excellent call on the opening play of the game. Tries some misdirections, a little razzle-dazzle, bringing Moore back around. You can see where he's trying to throw, and Garcia gets out front, throws a block.
Face mask, Toronto, #7, first down Calgary.
But he couldn't find that open receiver, but what he did was an excellent play fake on Harris, which forced him to grab the face mask. Otherwise, he had plenty of running room around that corner.
Harris taking the spot of Ed Barry, who is on the Argo injury list right now.
And those are the type of mistakes that Don Matthews will not stand for, blatant penalties like that.
First down Calgary at their 54, and this is Kelvin Anderson, and he's into Argo territory. Dumped at the 45-yard line by Marcelo Simmons, but that's a first down.
Marcelo Simmons, #9, with the tackle.
And there are the numbers for the season for Jeff Garcia, closing in on 4,000 yards. Good touchdown to interception ratio, but his second year has been a little inconsistent.
A lot of adjustments he had to make. Last year he came in, he wasn't the man, even though he was the starter. This year all the pressure was on his shoulder, and you have a different mindset at that point.
First down Stampeders, they'll go back to Anderson again, and off the right side, he's down to the 37-yard line. That's a gain of close to 8. So Anderson, who came into the game with 888 yards.
In talking with Calgary's offensive line prior to the game, they had a lot of pride in trying to get Anderson his 1,000 yards. He needed a $112 coming into the game, and they're getting off the mark.
Ron Meyer replacing Bruce Covington in this game. Covington has been shaken up and not 100%, and Kelvin Anderson on his first 2 carries has already made his presence felt. They go back to Anderson again, down to the 35-yard line, and that'll be close to a first down.
Yeah, I think he might have got it by half a football based on the spot of the official. They're going to measure, but he's really close. No, they moved it back, so he didn't get this one. He's going to miss it by half a football.
He ran into big Michael O'Shea, the native of North Bay, starting at middle linebacker for the Argonauts.
And he's made a nice adjustment in moving over to the Argonauts from Hamilton last year, solidifying the middle of that defense, and it allowed them to move Givens up to the rush-in spot when Tim Cofield had that neck injury.
So it'll be third down, Stampeders.
So under a yard to go, and the Stampeders will be going for it as they send a little extra beef in.
Well, they're going to need some beef. That's some good defensive tackles for Toronto. Andrew Stewart along with Tim Waldrop, and you got O'Shea who will be coming over the top. You got to get that push from the big horses up front for Calgary.
51, Noah Cantor also comes in as the first real battle along the lines takes place. Garcia will keep it. Didn't get a whole lot, but didn't need much, and that should move the chains.
That should move the chains, but the big thing about that is it's going to keep the drive alive. And Calgary could not afford to turn the ball over early. They need to get some points on the scoreboard.
Garcia's got a tough defense to work against. Demetrius Maxey is into the Argo lineup for the second game. Rob Waldrop has been outstanding all season long. We've talked about O'Shea, now the starting middle linebacker. And in that secondary, Donald Smith, Adrian Smith have been solid all year long, and they'll go off into their nickel package with Johnny Harris, who you've seen already in this game.
And I tell you, the surprise of that secondary has been George Namaco at safety.
A little misdirection, and here comes Anderson around the left side, over the 25, and that should be close to another first down. So Wally Buono's game plan of getting this running game kick-started early is paying off.
And I tell you, they got it kick-started, but what the Calgary has done, they made two changes in their offensive line. Rocco Romano, normally a guard, has moved out to left tackle for Bruce Covington. Ron Meyer has gone in at left guard, and he's had an outstanding first series here. He is getting off the ball, he's engaging the defensive lineman and sustaining his block, allowing the running play to develop.
And it is a first down. I talked about Kelvin Anderson going through a slump at the same time as the Stampeders did. He went through a 3-game period where he had only 35 yards rushing. 2 of those games against Edmonton and 1 against Montreal. He picked it up with 57 yards against the Argos, and there were his numbers last week, 155 yards from scrimmage. 6 receivers out, and big hit at the 21-yard line, not much there, as the Argos went back to Kelvin Anderson for his first reception of the game.
We're seeing a repeat by both teams of utilizing their tailbacks. We saw Pinball Clemens in the first series for the Argonauts, and now Anderson. They moved him out in the slot and brought him back under, got a block on Benson, but he wasn't able to break clear. Smith slowed him down, and O'Shea cleaned it up.
4 on first down, 2nd and 6 at the Argonaut 50.
So they give Anderson 4, and at the 20-yard line, 2nd and 6. Good protection for Garcia, looking for Alan Pitts, and he overthrows a wide-open Pitts in the corner of the end zone.
Sometime as a quarterback, you got to know when to put it on a rope and put some mustard on it. He is trying to gauge by leading his receiver. That time he had a wide-open Alan Pitts. You see the flight of the ball. All he had to do was put that one on a rope. He had no inside support. He would have had 6.
So both teams with solid opening drives. The Argos capped theirs with a field goal from Mike Vanderjagt, and now Mark McLaughlin is on. He's been automatic from inside 30 this year, 20 for 20, and this from the 27-yard line. Flag goes down. The kick is good.
We had Donald Smith offsides, and it's going to be an automatic first. Well, it's going to be 3rd and 1.
Now
and this is gambling time.
Yep. Wally Buono has a decision now.
You got to take them off the board. You got to go up, and you got to trust your offensive line. They've been doing a good job in this opening series with that surge, moving back the Argonaut defensive front and go for your first down. This is a game you can't afford to lose. You take all the points you can, and if you get a major early, take it.
It's 3rd and about 6.5 where it was. Now it'll be 3rd and a yard and a half.
Offside, Toronto, number 12, 3rd down repeated.
Well, if you're the Calgary Stampeders, you got to look at Freddie Childers, about 330 pounds at right tackle, with Jay McNeil rolling about 290, and they've had outstanding years. And so look at the right side of the Calgary offensive formation and get the ball to your back, Anderson, and let him pick up the yard.
It's a full yard they need. Dwayne Ford and Kelvin Anderson. Now Ford goes in motion. Give Anderson, and he'll have it. So they went against the old axiom, never take points off the board, but I think it was a good call early in the ball.
It was the right call, and they were very fortunate. Watch Michael O'Shea as he comes through at the bottom of your screen. Normally a sure tackle just barely missed Anderson. He would have stopped him short of the first down, but this is a big play for Calgary, a big momentum builder for the Stampeders.
Mike O'Shea, a former Rookie of the Year in 1993. Now the Argos defense digging in. Garcia rolling, flushed out, throwing end zone, touchdown! Kelvin Anderson, and the Stampeders take full advantage of the offside call against Donald Smith.
And that's what I was talking about, Chris. You got to know when to put some heat on the football. And that time, Jeff Garcia stepped up in the pocket. And when you get a quarterback with mobility and he's able to step up in the pocket and buy extra time, it's just like having a point guard on a basketball team penetrating the lane, breaking down the defense, and that's what Jeff Garcia does. Watch as he comes up in the pocket, and defenders have to come off the men, respecting the run. He put some heat on that ball, and there was no way that O'Shea could run with Anderson.
Kelvin Anderson leads the Canadian Football League in touchdowns on the year. That's number 13. And McLaughlin caps it with the convert. So Anderson and the Stampeders have the lead just about 10 minutes in. Kelvin Anderson was just about the entire drive for Calgary. He had 50 yards, 33 on the ground, 20 yards in penalties, and 5 other yards, but Anderson a big start in this game.
Well, you had talked about earlier that about the halfway point of the season where he had hit a low, but he seemed to have caught his second win, and now he's a big asset for this Calgary offense.
Jimmy Cunningham allows the kickoff to go out of bounds. And so the Stampeders will have to do it again, but Kelvin Anderson was nicked a little earlier in the year at a point where those stats start to go down. He didn't talk about it a lot, but Wally Bono noticed there was a little more bounce in his stride last week as he's over the effects of a Charlie horse, which he got about a month ago.
And your legs as a running back are so important to you, and if you don't have full complement of the support from those underneath extremities, you will have a tendency to try to protect them a little bit more, and that's what he was trying to do. He wasn't hitting the holes. I think what he didn't believe in is that his offensive linemen would have the hole when they would give him the ball deep in the backfield on those search runs. But Doug Flutie warming up on the sideline, waiting for his second opportunity because he's not accustomed to trailing this year.
He looks anxious to answer back after an impressive drive by the Stampeders.
Well, he's put together so many of those drives in his 4 years here with the Calgary Stampeders, as you just saw Jeff Garcia do, taking his team down for a major.
McLaughlin from 5 yards further back, and Jimmy Cunningham has his first touch on the ball. And downfield coverage has been stressed by Calgary throughout the week in the rematch against Toronto. Ray Biggs led the charge downfield, holding an 18-yard return for Cunningham. Earlier today, the Alouettes get closer to nailing down second place. Had their hands full at Frank Clair Stadium against the improving Ottawa Rough Riders.
As Danny Kepley had mentioned, that Ottawa team has played very well. Late here in the season, they just have not been able to put together a full 60 minutes, and that has cost them because there's been 6 games that they could have very easily won.
So the Argos start from their own 31 out of the shotgun. Outside, and Cunningham dropped the ball.
Mazzotti, make that Paul Mazzotti out there.
Paul Mazzotti, check that.
It's incomplete.
Oh, it is Cunningham. It's hard to see these numbers up here today.
Number 86.
88 and 66.
Well, Doug Flutie has many weapons. Cunningham with 48 catches, close to 600 yards on the season, and he's 4th on the Argo list in receiving. Looked like Tyrone Williams was offside. Flutie finishes the play, and it's incomplete. That was Mazzotti on the other side.
The intended for number 88.
And Marvin Coleman was in coverage, but Tyrone Williams was ahead of the snap.
Well, he had been watching Ray Elgard over the years, getting that early jump on the ball, and
League of Procedure, Toronto, 81, decline. 3rd down.
But Marvin Coleman with excellent coverage on the far side of the field versus Paul Mazzotti. Paul Mazzotti had the 97-yard touchdown the last time these two were together, but that was against Al Jordan. Marv Coleman, a more sure one-on-one receiver.
There is Coleman, one of the top punt returners in the league. He's back with Terry Vaughn. Both have punt return averages of over 11 yards, and Vaughn will carry it. And Vaughn showing how elusive he is, getting to the outside. And Terry Vaughn across the 45 to the 48. Marcelo Simmons the tackle. Calgary with the lead.
Here's a likely playoff scenario. Stamp's magic number is 2 to clinch first place. Any combination of Calgary wins, Edmonton losses, totaling 2, gives the Stamps first and a bye into the West Division final. Edmonton would then host Winnipeg in the West Semi. I'm not sure Edmonton, Chris, would love to finish first, because if the Eskimos did, they'd have 3 weeks off before the West final because they finished the season with a bye, so there'd be a certain amount of rust to shake off. Winnipeg and Edmonton, though, in a semifinal as we speak, is the likely scenario.
No, I don't think Ron Lancaster would like that scenario, although if you finish first, you only have to win 1 game to get to the Grey Cup. And I think there's some pressure on Jeff Garcia and Calgary to win here today, because if they lose, Toronto goes up to Edmonton, a short week for the Argos. Edmonton wins that game. The Eskimos have a solid chance at finishing first.
Yeah, but it'd be a very tough scenario if they did finish first. They would actually end up with 3 weeks off prior to playing a game, and it's very tough to take a 3 weeks off late in the season and come out and win.
2nd and 10 for Garcia. Here comes the rush, and he pulls it down. Jeff Garcia over midfield. It looks like he's just over a yard short of the first down. That's another good sign for Wally Buono, though. He said that when you see Garcia pull it down, be aggressive, and run with the football, and you can see his rushing yards are very comparable to Tracy Ham, who we saw earlier, and Doug Flutie, then Calgary's offense is probably working.
He's a very aggressive runner. He's one of those guys who'll try to run through a tackler instead of around a tackler. You're not going to see Jeff hook slide, but this time he came up a yard and a half short. But this is a good situation for Calgary if they decide to come with the fake. And so you're going to expect Toronto to be very alert and really hold their guys at the line of scrimmage.
It is a yard and a half. They gambled from the Argo 30, but apparently won't do it from midfield. Instead, Tony Martino is back, and awaiting the punt is Jimmy Cunningham. And here is Cunningham at the 14. And look at the Calgary Stampeders swarming downfield. They are not intent on not allowing Cunningham another 186 yards in punt returns as he did on September 21st.
Well, the best thing about Cunningham as we get a look at Vic Stevenson there coming on the field is that you want to limit this running lane. Don't outkick the coverage.
Congratulations to MJ Campbell, one of the game winners. Wally Drummond, his no relation.
Vic Stevens, a 15-year veteran here with the Toronto Argonauts in his first season. Everyone had talked about earlier in the year that Mike Kislak may be the best offensive lineman in the CFL. He may not be the best offensive lineman on the Argonauts. Vic Stevens may have a claim to that.
First carry by Robert Drummond. And he's up to the 24-yard line. Close to 5 yards. Drummond kind of like Kelvin Anderson in his first full year, taking the direct snap here. His yardage kind of tailed off, and he's picking it up again.
Well, you know, if you look at Robert Drummond, he spent 2 years in Baltimore prior to coming to the Argonauts, but most of that time was spent out at receiver, so it wasn't a high-contact position. He's taken a lot more shots from the backfield.
2nd and 5, and Flutie misfires as he looked for Clemens, and for the second straight series, the Calgary Stampeders forcing the Argos 2 and out.
Well, you gotta like the position that Calgary's defense is in. They're very accustomed to seeing a Doug Flutie. For 4 years, they practiced against him every day, and so making defensive adjustments against Flutie comes a little more easier when you're Calgary than another team.
Flutie was saying yesterday he's so familiar with Calgary, and they're so tough and physical. It's similar to his old matchups against the Edmonton Eskimos. Vanderjagt for his second punt. End over end. And on one hop, Terry Vaughn finds a seam. And Terry Vaughn is to midfield. So in the early going, the Calgary special teams are outperforming the Argos.
Well, the first time these two teams met a couple of weeks ago at Skydome, we had talked about the game being sort of like a chess match. And it's coming back that direction once again. You're playing for field position. Here in the first quarter, Calgary has been playing with the short field, so the Argonauts defense has really had to bow up their backs and prevent them from driving up and down a short field.
Jeff Garcia, short field as O'Shea digs in They start from midfield, and Kelvin Anderson will try the right side, and he slides over the 50 for a gain of 5.
Close to 5.
Ron Meyer is a new insert in the Calgary offensive line, and Demetrius Maxey playing his 3rd game with the Argonauts, coming over from Montreal earlier in the year. But Ron Myers had an outstanding first quarter. He led the trap on that last play for Anderson to pick up 6 yards on the run.
Second and
Ron Meyer, a youngster out of the University of Calgary.
He's accustomed to playing here.
3 starts this year. Calgary's won all 3. Garcia over the middle, and Alan Pitts stretches out and makes the catch for a first down. And that's very close to the 1,000-yard mark for Pitts on the year, who came in with 993.
The first time these two teams met, he was coming off of that broken finger where he had missed the game prior to that and came back, and he had dropped a couple that seemed to be catchable, but that time Pitts went up and made sure that he made the reception prior to falling down at the 42-yard line.
It's a gain of 8, so he's at 1,001. Alan Pitts in familiar territory. It's his 3rd straight 1,000-yard season and 6th of his distinguished career. Here's Garcia looking over the middle and almost picked off. Adrian Smith got his hands on the football.
Well, that's just an overthrow by Garcia. He had a wide open man, but next time you can expect for him to go back.
That's the final play of the first quarter. Pretty good one for Jeff Garcia and the Stamps. They lead it 7-3. Well, the fans have been looking forward to this matchup. Doug Flutie returning to McMahon Stadium, and Doug Flutie's old battery mate, Alan Pitts, making some history here. He has tied Tony Gabriel on the all-time list. There are the first quarter stats.
And Calgary, you see, with the edge in first downs, and that's the key. If you recall, when they took the points off the scoreboard and went for it on 3rd and 1 to get the touchdown, that's what you have to do. You have to gamble sometime in games of this magnitude if you want success.
Pitts with that catch, by the way, ties Tony Gabriel for 5th on the all-time receiving list in the CFL. So the next catch, as long as it's over the line of scrimmage, will move it into 5th place alone.
No, as long as he's in front of the quarterback.
2nd and 10. Garcia rolling left side, and there it is. Alan Pitts, number 5 all time.
Almost like your cutie.
More importantly, he's moved the sticks once again for a Stampeder offense, James, that looks a lot sharper in this game than they did in Toronto.
They are. I mean, they're clicking, and I spoke about it, that they were going to be looking to come out and gamble and have a wide open offense. You got Pitts coming here. He's going to square it out deep. I mean, perfect throw by the quarterback Garcia, who comes out, buys himself that extra time of breaking contain, and he puts some heat on this ball, and he gets there in a hurry. Pitts makes the reception.
So the Stampeders threatening at the Argo 26. Garcia stands in, and a little miscommunication with Travis Moore, the wide receiver who was shut out last week. Garcia went deep, and Moore pulled up.
I think what you have to do is you look at Smith on the corner. When Adrian came up and jammed Moore, he broke off the route because he wasn't going to let him release freely. As you look at the numbers here of Alan Pitts, who has moved up the charts to number 5, closing in on 10,000.
2nd and 10, Stampeders at the Argonaut 26.
So it's 2nd and 10. We've seen Pitts with a couple of catches. Haven't heard from Dave Sapunjas yet, the other super slot back. Garcia throwing it, and a good defensive play there. The knockdown made by Adrian Smith.
Number 19,
Well, check that. The other Smith in the secondary for the Argos.
Donald Smith. You know, what Garcia was doing, though, he was waving to Vaughn to come back. What Vaughn had done was gone up and set down at the first down sticks. He was trying to preserve the first down, but he set down and Smith broke on the ball. He was making sure that he didn't lose the yardage, and that's the reason why it gave Smith an opportunity to bat it away.
Kevin Reed will pin it at
So Mark McLaughlin, who had one taken off the board in the first quarter, so a Calgary drive could continue, will attempt a 33-yarder. And McLaughlin, who's had an outstanding year, is good again. 10-3 Calgary with the lead. Scott?
The Toronto Argonauts
Chris, the East Division has got just one order of business left to be decided, and that's who's going to finish second. Toronto has first place taken care of. Montreal leading Hamilton for second place by 4 points after their 25-18 victory over Ottawa today. So we know Toronto has a bye into the final. Montreal will face Hamilton in the East semifinal. We know that. We don't know the location, but Olympic Stadium is the best bet right now with the Alouettes, as I say, 4 up on the Ticats in the East.
And what we do know is all the postseason coverage on CBC, the CFL on CBC en route to the 1996 Grey Cup game at Ivor Wynne Stadium in Hamilton. Well, the Argos are down by a touchdown as Doug Flutie calls his own number, and Flutie is up near the 45-yard line with a gain of 9 on the quarterback keeper.
Well, Doug Flutie had a lot of success the last time these two met. He ran for 67 yards on the ground. He is always that double threat. He ran the veer very successfully last time, but this has been his trademark, the quarterback draw.
That rushing game in Toronto was the second best for Doug this season. And he is number 6 in the CFL in the rushing department. Short yardage team in for Toronto on 2nd and 1 from the 44. Give Clements, and he bounced off an attempted tackle behind the line of scrimmage, and looks like he'll move the chains.
You know, we've seen good penetration on short yardage plays this afternoon, and the backs have been very fortunate, Anderson and Clemens, that they were not stopped short of the first down yardage on a couple of runs.
Well, it's been an outstanding year for the Toronto Argonauts. 12 wins, 2 losses. They have a chance to be the best ever Argonaut team during the regular season. The 88 Argos under Bob Obilovich were 14 and 4. Here's Flutie, that little shovel pass, and pinball's on his way. Mike Clemens into Calgary territory, stopped up by Eddie Davis at the 41. 23-yard pickup for Pinball Clemens.
3 on the pickup.
You know, this is an excellent play call. When you see Clemens coming from the slot, from the left of the screen, coming up underneath, what happens is that the linebacker that's assigned to him is picked as he's coming down the line of scrimmage, allowing him that open seam.
First down, Argos. Flutie, lots of time. Tyrone Williams wide open, and Flutie missed the open receiver, and there is a flag down. I think it was thrown after Flutie delivered the football.
Well, we're going to get Chuck Bradley with the holding penalty on Rodney Harding on the play. It came well after the flag was thrown, but he couldn't get his hands off of Harding quick enough.
A former Argo, Rodney Harding, and a former Stampeder, Doug Flutie.
Holding. Toronto, number 64. First down repeated.
Yeah, and that's a big play really for Calgary's defense, because whenever you can move Doug Flutie back and you can give him another 10 yards of field he has to work with, it gives you an added advantage of stopping him short of the first down. We see the matchup of Bradley and Harding, 10 quarterback sacks this season, working against a formidable opponent in 6'6", 300-pound Bradley in his second year. Came over from Memphis in that dispersal draft.
Rodney Harding, a great Argo, 165 games over 10 years. Here's Flutie, waving receivers, and now finding Drummond out of the backfield, and Drummond dropped the football.
We've seen that a couple times here early in the game. Receivers trying to run prior to making the reception. Jimmy Cunningham in the first quarter had one in the flat that he dropped, and now we see Robert Drummond, who is normally a sure-handed receiver, letting it go down the sideline. Flutie bought the extra time, and this is where the Calgary is going to have problems, allowing him 5 seconds in a play to make something happen.
Alondra Johnson was in the neighborhood just to give Drummond something to think about, but he should have caught that football, and Flutie has missed on 5 of his last 7 attempts. Going to Tyrone Williams, who has the catch. He'll be well short of the first down. Eddie Davis with the tackle.
Number 29 drags him down.
And see, that's where that penalty comes into play, that holding penalty, which kept them back 20 yards, picking up a first down. He completes a 10-yard pass, and he still has to punt. That's how critical a holding penalty is. You see Chris Perez right here working against Will Johnson, who has been one of the best sackers in the CFL, but he's had his hands full in the last 2 games working against Perez.
There is a slight breeze to the back of the Argos in this second quarter as Mike Vanderjagt is going to attempt a 49-yarder. His longest of the year from 51, Flutie the holder. And Vanderjagt puts it through. 49-yarder for Vanderjagt, and the Argonauts cut in Calgary's lead.
Sunday on the CFL on CBC, the Argos, who are heading to Red Deer for a few days of rest and recreation, are in Edmonton to face the Eskimos. That telecast begins at 3 ET. Chris?
Ronnie Lancaster's Eskimos with a wild win against the BC Lions on Saturday night. First down, Calgary at their own 35, and Kelvin Anderson, who's been busy in this first half, gets over the 40 and has 6 to 7 yards. Ken Benson there to stop him.
Talked about Benson in the opening here, that he was going to have his hands full in running down Anderson from sideline to sideline. He is one of those players that came in, he was able to fit into this scheme. He had spent a couple years in Baltimore with Don Matthews. He was a former Argonaut who was able to come back, and he's been a welcome addition to this defense.
2nd and 4, Calgary. Garcia over the middle, and Alan Pitts is bread and butter in that neighborhood. Argos say he dropped the football, but they are ruling it a catch at the 50 and a first down.
Well, this has been the hub of the Calgary offense for the past 5 years. Dave Sapunjas and Alan Pitts playing at the slots. Very difficult to cover these 2 receivers. He finds the open spot in the zone. You can't play man against Garcia because he will pull it down and run, but watch the pressure by Andrew Stewart working on Ron Meyer, the young second-year offensive guard, has his hands full against the big defensive tackle.
8.5 minutes to play, first half. 10-6 Calgary. First down at the 50. Garcia rolling to the left, and that's picked off. The first time he goes to Dave Sapunjas today, Adrian Smith has the interception.
And he is crying that there should have been a tripping penalty thrown on Dave Sapunjas because he leg whipped him.
Adrian Smith had an interception the last time these 2 teams met, and he comes up with another pick. Here's Adrian Smith, second interception of the year against Calgary, his 5th overall.
But right here, watch at the end of the play with Dave Sapunjas' legs whips Adrian Smith after the interception, and Don Matthews was incensed on the sideline because there was no flag thrown. That is what you call tripping. That is a 15-yard, supposedly, penalty.
And if Dave Sapunjas doesn't do it, Adrian Smith might still be running.
He's looking at 6, probably picking up one of those new cars in the end zone.
Don Matthews, what a roll he is on. Teams he has coached have won 25 of the last 27 starts in the regular season. There's Anthony McClanahan, who's had some words about what he'd like to do to Doug Flutie if he can get his hands on him. But Flutie has Drummond, and he had his hands on the ball. But for the second time in this quarter, 29 is unable to squeeze it.
I think McClanahan should be more concerned about keeping up with Drummond on the play, because that's what you want is a back on a linebacker. That's the mismatch. And when you have a player of Drummond's ability, watch as he just runs away from Anthony McClanahan on the play. You have to make that. If it hits you in the hand, you have to make that reception. And you can see the frustration of Doug Flutie on the play.
Well, he has been a reliable receiver this year, 60 catches coming in, and it's been a dynamic duo coming out of the backfield. 2nd and 10. And Flutie has a receiver far side. That's Paul Mazzotti. And Mazzotti has enough for a first down.
I want to go back to that point you were making about Don Matthews and the success that he's had as coaching as we get a look at Paul Mazzotti running his route. The 25 wins in the last 27 starts. You go back even to his days in BC, the success he had as a head coach, and a lot of people mislabeled him being down in Baltimore, said, well, he had a wealth of American talent. He has proved in coming back into Toronto, where he has to play with the Canadian ratio, it really doesn't make a difference. He knows how to get the best out of his players.
Here's Flutie with the pump, and then he finds John Morton. And Morton will have another first down as Flutie is getting untracked in this series with under 7 minutes to go in the second quarter.
Well, they think John Morton is the fastest of their receiving corps. He runs a post route, and he gets inside on Coleman. Normally decent coverage, but when you get a guy throwing the ball, putting it on the money like Flutie's doing right now, wielding a hot hand, it's very difficult to cover the receivers.
That was Morton's first start of the season last week. He did see action with the Argos last year. I talked to him before the game about the difference between last year and this year, and he said, last year it was chaos when I joined the team. This year you can tell the difference, and one of the big differences is Doug Flutie. Crowd making noise. They want the defense to dig in. Flutie pulls it down. Gets outside. And Doug Flutie takes a lick at the 11 and has another first down.
And this is what Doug Flutie does so well, is that he creates opportunities. What he did in the first 10 yards of that run is that he did not cross the line of scrimmage. He ran parallel with the line of scrimmage, looking for an open receiver. Once he saw that he could pick up the first down, then he tucked the ball and took off and got it down inside the 15.
17-yard pickup for Flutie. It's 1st and 10 for the Argos at the Stampeder 11. They can make a first down without scoring a touchdown. 4 receivers left side. Flutie over the middle, dumping it off. That's Drummond. And Drummond's down at the 2. There's a flag in the end zone.
Well, that's where you normally get illegal contact with an eligible receiver.
It's against Toronto.
And we're going to get offensive interference on this play, and this is really going to hurt Toronto. And this will really create some problems. If you recall, the last time that they got a penalty that pushed them back to 1st and 20, they were not able to capitalize.
Forward pass interference. Toronto, number 80, first down repeated.
These are the 2 most least penalized teams in the league. Very disciplined. Don Matthews' team, least penalized in the CFL.
We also want to make another point about this Argonaut receiving corps. All but Robert Drummond of the receivers on the field right now for this team were brought in by Bob Obilovich. You talked about Don Matthews possibly passing him as the best single season record, and part of that would occur with the players that he brought in to help mold this Argonaut team, part of that nucleus.
Here's Flutie under the gun, looking into the end zone, and Clements couldn't reach the ball. And Pinball slow to get up.
And Alondra Johnson was bringing the pressure from his middle linebacker position. He made contact with Doug Flutie just as he tried to deliver that football and forced him to overthrow as we see Pinball coming back on the playing field. But watch as Johnson comes up the middle. He runs right through Robert Drummond. Robert Drummond is no small man, about 6'3", 217 pounds, but Alondra Johnson is one heck of a ball player. As you see Pinball on that corner route, he was open. The ball was slightly overthrown, and that came from the pressure up the middle.
Clements getting a little push out of bounds from Eddie Davis. 4:50 to go. First half, 2nd and 20, the Argonauts at the 21. Here comes the rush again. Flutie rushed the football, and it falls incomplete in front of John Morton.
And it was Alondra Johnson once again. The middle linebacker had moved out onto the corner position, came free on the blitz, and forced Doug Flutie to throw the ball quicker than what he wanted. We'll possibly get a look at it on a replay, but Alondra Johnson, 2 plays in succession. You'll see him coming off the corner, keeping Doug Flutie contained. He can run with Doug, forcing him to throw it short to Morton.
Alondra Johnson having another outstanding year, has led the Stampeders in tackles for 5 consecutive years. Vanderjagt in to attempt a 28-yarder. And Vanderjagt is good, but the Stampeders playing tough on defense, and a penalty hurts Flutie, who has to settle for 3.
There's Marvin Pope back in the Calgary lineup. Says it's not his teammates he's targeting today, but rather the guy playing quarterback for Toronto.
we just got to play sound football. We got to keep Doug off the field. We got to put our offense on the field. As long as Doug on the field, they're a threat. And it's not only Doug. They got Pinball. They got Jimmy the Jet. We just got to keep it out their offense's hand.
Well, so far, Big Daddy and the defense have done the job, holding Flutie and company to 3 field goals and a 10-9 Calgary lead as Jeff Garcia goes back to Alan Pitts.
And they're doing the job. Toronto came with the blitz on that last play, but the offensive line is getting the job done. And when you have to play zone coverage in the secondary, and Alan Pitts working back towards Garcia, shortening the flight of the ball, picking up the first down.
Way back when, and he was confused.
Pitts over 1,000 yards again with his first reception of the afternoon. Here's Garcia setting up the screen to Anderson over midfield, and Kelvin Anderson trying to get outside. That's a big tackle by Donald Smith, because Kelvin Anderson, if he gets outside, is away to the races.
Well, that was an excellent job of setting up the screen, and that's what you want to do when you're trying to slow down the pass rush of an opponent, is setting up the screen pass, and that's what they do. You got Anderson sitting here. He's going to float out in the flat, but here in the middle, you're going to get an official who lays a block for Anderson, allowing him to get past Benson and pick up the extra yardage for the first down. You see Benson right there having to dodge the official, allowing Anderson to pick up an extra 7.
First down, and now they pitch it to Kelvin Anderson, left side, and he's driven back. Late flag. Marker down, and this will be holding against Calgary.
Well, we've seen several holding penalties in critical situations.
So they mark that off. The 3-minute warning given to both benches. It's 10-9 Stampeders. Well, why would we be surprised that this is another defensive battle with Wally Buono and Don Matthews pacing the sidelines, 2 of the best defensive minds in the history of the Canadian Football League.
They are, and you look at the teams that they've been putting together over the year. Everyone have looked at their offense, but their defense has really limited opponents in their offensive productivity.
Interesting decision by the Argos. They declined the penalty at 2nd and 8, and a big play there by the newcomer Johnny Harris with the knockdown. And that forces 3rd down and makes Matthews' decision to decline the holding penalty a pretty good one.
That's a heck of a play by the young player who to come in with his left hand and playing against David Sapunjas. Watch as Sapunjas comes back against the flow, but also watch Harris's right arm as he grabs Sapunjas, shields it away from the official, and bats the ball away.
Now, the one reason you might have raised an eyebrow at the decision by the Argos not to take the holding penalty is this does give Mark McLaughlin an opportunity to attempt a field goal, but it's from 54 yards out.
Well, he has the leg to get it there. It's going to be right at the edge of his distance right now, of his limit, because of the slight breeze, but he can reach it there from 54.
He's 1 for 4 from outside the 50, 52 his longest, and there is a slight breeze.
Argos are calling timeout. They're a man short on the play, and Jimmy the Jet called timeout from back at the goal line.
It's almost like a poker game here, because Don Matthews has given the Stampeders an opportunity to attempt the field goal, but if they miss, the Argos get great field position with 2.5 minutes to play.
I think I made a mistake when I said they were a man short on the play. What happened is that he's setting up the return on the play. They were going with the block, and what happens if you do go for the block and you get someone dropping that neutral zone, you're going to move it up 5 yards if he does miss. But when you have great returner like Jimmy the Jet, what you want to do is set up that wall return just in case he missed, because he can take it all the way back to the house.
If you missed it earlier, Kenny Wilhite, 114 yards on a missed field goal. Here's McLaughlin stepping into it and actually angling it away, so there never was an intent.
Well, he's going to nail this one about the 2-yard line. That was a marvelous play by Mark McLaughlin.
Well, on the BF Goodrich TA halftime report today, Doug Flutie opened up with us in a sit-down conversation last night. We covered a number of things, including his disappointment in having to leave Calgary. We'll also get the details on Montreal's win over Ottawa in the first half of our doubleheader today, and we'll talk about the first half of this one. Chris, you were there last night, and I don't know about you, but I was really embarrassed when Doug started every answer with, "Scott, that is absolutely the most brilliant question I've ever been asked."
You know what? It was a marvelous interview in spite of that, Scott. But don't miss it, because I think you'll see a side of Doug Flutie that most people in the CFL, despite all the records, haven't seen before.
He's a real person.
Boy, that was a great move by the Stampeders. They've got Flutie and company backed up. Doug calls the quarterback draw for the second time of the game and gets it to the 6.
You spoke about being a chess match in two great defensive minds in Buono and Matthews on the far side of the field there. But, you know, to pin the Argos down at the 2-yard line to give Doug Flutie 108 yards to work against. And he struggled when he's had 2nd and 20, 1st and 20. He hasn't been able to move his team, but to get Calgary a great defensive advantage here with the long field.
There's Frank Spaziani. If his defense stops them here, the offense will get the ball back with lots of time and good field position. Here's the throw, and it was behind Pinball Clements, and Kent Leonard was in coverage. Big play by Leonard, and Flutie threw behind the receiver.
Now, if you're Calgary, do you put on the block, or do you look to set up the return? I think you come after the football. You have Vanderjet pinned back deep in his own end zone, and if you can get the pressure on him, he may even shank one.
One man drops deep. That's Marvin Coleman, so they are going to crank up the heat on Mike Vanderjet.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see the Argonauts concede 2 points on the play. That would be a great move, but looks like he might kick it away looking at the posture of the blockers.
That's the other option. That's what we were talking about, a chess match. A lot of options and thinking each play about 3 or 4 plays ahead. Vanderjet kicking it out of bounds at the Argo 44.
And once again, Calgary's already in field goal range.
Just a 36-yard punt with the breeze at Vanderjet's back, but no return as he kicked it out of bounds. Well, you put it in Cunningham's hands or Coleman's hands, and you're playing with fire. And although Vanderjet's kick was only 36 yards, maybe a good idea to keep it away from Coleman.
And that's the plus about having excellent kick returners, is that your offense can normally operate with a short field.
2:04 to play in the first half of a defensive battle. Garcia has an open man, and that's Travis Moore with the catch. Moore was shut out last week. He had a meeting with the quarterback afterwards. The quarterback told him, I've still got confidence in you. I've got to start looking your way. And Garcia hooks up for 19 yards.
And I want to go back to a point you made about Garcia when he runs the ball, and he runs aggressively, and he forces defenses to commit. That time he ran laterally, got outside, and Moore broke back to his quarterback and found an open spot for the first down.
At the 25-yard line. Jeff Garcia trying to pad the Stampeder lead before the half, and he calls his own number. And Jeff Garcia is down inside the 15, another first down. Well, that's the aggressive play that Wally Buono wants to see out of his second-year quarterback.
And what you have now is the Toronto selling out on the pass rush. They're making a commitment to go after the quarterback, and Jeff Garcia is recognizing that. They came up with man coverage in the secondary, and what that does, it makes the defensive backs turn their back towards the quarterback and gives him that running lane to pick up another 10 to 12 yards.
Buono admits he's not as elusive as Flutie, but Jeff Garcia can be just as aggressive. Here's Kelvin Anderson, sprinting left side, fumbles the football, and Adrian Smith had it, and Stampeders are able to knock it out of bounds.
Anderson picked up his own ball and reserved the ball for the Stampeders.
He just got a hand on it before it went out of play to maintain possession for Calgary.
Well, I'll tell you, there was a couple of outstanding plays. Number one by Reggie Givens to get out and track down Kevin Anderson and to make the open field stop with some help from Simmons. But watch as Anderson gets up off the ground and hustles after Crysdale knocks the ball away from Smith and picks the ball up and bats it out of bounds. You don't have to have possession. You have to make contact with the ball before it touches out of bounds.
I'm not sure that contact wasn't made after the ball was out of bounds.
Judgment call.
And I think the Stampeders got the benefit of the doubt there. There was a brief argument, but not too long, and it's 2nd and 12 now. An extra DB in for Toronto. Garcia with time, looking in the end zone. Touchdown, Alan Pitts. With his 8th touchdown of the year, 78th of his career. Little physical down there, James.
Just a go route by Alan Pitts. You have him and Simmons locked up one-on-one. We spoke about that matchup earlier, that was an advantage for Pitts at 6'4" versus 6 feet. And he can still run, and he gets those arms on him, gets the separation. And Garcia led in perfectly. Touchdown.
It's a war, fuck it. You got to do what you got to do.
McLaughlin adds the extra point. Here on the sidelines, it's a war. You got to do what you got to do. And Pitts did what he had to do to ward off Simmons and get open in the end zone.
The greatest thing about a game like this is that the game will pump you up by itself. As you see, Alan Pitt extends himself at the end of this pass to make the reception from his quarterback, Garcia. But you see the reaction of Garcia, jubilant after throwing his 2nd touchdown of the first half. And Jeff Garcia, over his last 3 games, has thrown 6 touchdowns without an interception. And when he was struggling, that's what was hurting him, was interceptions. But he's been almost flawless in his last 3, and he's had 2 300-yard games in those.
Well, a big part of that scoring drive by Pitts is the field management employed by Wally Buono, the strategy to get McLaughlin to kick it out, pin the Argos deep, and
it's the chess match that you spoke about. Maneuvering the ball, kicking it out at the 2, putting the heat on Vanderjet, forcing him to shank the ball. Only a 36-yard punt with the wind at his back gave Calgary instant field position, and Jeff Garcia took advantage and put the points on the scoreboard for Calgary.
63 seconds to go in the first half, so there's still time for the Argos to answer back. 17-9, Calgary with the lead.
And this is what you really have to protect against. If you're Calgary, you have the momentum. If you allow the Argonauts to get a quick, cheap points here, closing out the first half, it can hurt you going into halftime.
Away from Cunningham and to Clemens. And Clemens tripped up at the 34.
Mike Clemens, number 31 on the return.
And things heating up. Mike O'Shea in the middle of it. The 19-yard return by Clemens. And now Doug Flutie ready to go to work, and there's nobody in CFL history that can do more in 59 seconds than number 2.
If it can be done, it can be done by number 2, Doug Flutie. But in a game of football, as we see, and you talk about emotions heating up, you have to wear the emotions on your sleeve when you play this game. You have to let it all hang out and not leave anything to think about once the 60 minutes is up.
Lots of time for Flutie, finds Mazzotti. Nice tackle on the play by Jackie Kellogg.
And Mazzotti's limping getting up off the field, and Mazzotti has had problems with the hamstring this year, and they cannot afford to lose him. Last time they met, you recall, he got the 97-yard big play for the touchdown. We'll see the out pattern here. Watch the tackle by Kellogg, because if he doesn't make this, he has a lot of yardage in front of him.
I steered you the wrong way. Kenton Leonard actually made the play, 30, not 3. And
hey, in these dark jerseys, you're allowed to miss the 0.
Mazzotti, who has feasted on the Stampeders in his career. Now it's Clemens swinging it on out the right side and forced out of bounds. 46 seconds on the clock, just a short gain for the pinball.
You know, you say he was forced out of bounds, but you have to think about pinball in the open field. That was a marvelous play by Al Jordan to make that stop on Mike Clemens in open field, because he's made everyone miss this afternoon. And once again, there was a lot of running room behind Al Jordan.
Adam Rita, the offensive coordinator, upstairs looking on as Doug Flutie is into the hurry-up offense here in the final minute, first half. Guns it over the middle, and Clemens is across midfield. That's a first down for the Argos at the Calgary 52.
And this is what I spoke about. You have to protect against the Argonauts coming down, picking up cheap points. Clemens is having an outstanding game here in the first half as Leonard makes the stop at the 52-yard line.
Well, Flutie, right out of his textbook. on the 1-minute drill. A lot of time, and he has an open receiver, and that's Mazzotti. It was stripped by Jordan, but after the whistle, and another first down for Toronto, and they are, well, close to Vanderjagt range.
Well, this is what you talk about, excitement, CFL style. You cannot walk away from your TV set, especially in the 2-minute drill, because at any point, anything big can happen, and Doug Flutie is marching his team.
Well, to be a 46-yard attempt, Vanderjagt can make those, but Flutie will make it easier if he can, and he'll go back to Mazzotti. Paul Mazzotti missed a day of practice this week. He was sick. When he came back the next day as Vanderjagt is loosening up, he had a couple of new plays designed for Mr. Flutie, and Doug said he put them right into the playbook.
Well, impromptu by Doug Flutie. He is willing to listen to his teammates because he is such an adjustment-type quarterback.
Mazzotti has 4 catches, 36 yards in the afternoon. Look at the time for Flutie, and now he pulls it down and is stopped at the 23, so good coverage downfield and just a 3-yard pickup.
And that's what I talked about earlier. Doug Flutie stretching plays 4 and 5 seconds, and when he's allowed to do that, that's when his 3rd and 4th option in the passing scheme comes into play.
Looks like Flutie waved the field goal unit off. He's got 12 seconds to go, and the clock will start running.
Got to take a shot at the end zone right here.
Flutie throwing it, and was the catch made? Yes, Mazzotti with another catch. They've got 5 seconds to go, but they don't have time to go to the end zone.
Well, they burned that timeout. You recall earlier on the punt return, the field goal attempt that they thought would be, they burned the timeout, and that's when McLaughlin angled it out at the 2-yard line. It cost him an attempt to go into the end zone on this sequence.
Still, though, vintage Flutie. With 63 seconds to go, he takes it from his own 34, drives to the Calgary 12-yard line. That's Rodney Harding, who's down on one knee, and he'll get attention while Vanderjagt and the field goal unit get ready for Toronto.
And that was a marvelous utilization of the clock, moving down the field meticulously, spreading the ball around, not giving Calgary's defense an opportunity to key on one receiver, utilizing inside out, over the middle passing, getting his team down inside the 10-yard line for this chip shot field goal attempt.
Well, Big Daddy Marvin Pope and the Stamps take a breather and get set for this field goal attempt. We'll remind you that coming up at halftime, Scott Oak will talk to Doug Flutie. An enlightening chat on his time in the CFL, and a personal look too, which I found interesting, talking about his family and life off the football field. Vanderjagt from just inside the 20. He is good, and that is the final play of the first half.
At halftime,
Well, the offenses moved the football, but the defenses, for the most part, did the job. And through 30 minutes of football at McMahon Stadium in Calgary, it's 17-12 Stampeders.
Welcome to the BF Goodrich TA Halftime. Now, here's your host, Scott Oak.
30 minutes complete, and the Stamps lead by 5. In the CFL, you can do no better than Doug Flutie's name on the marquee. He's the best-known player in a league for which he seems tailor-made. And Flutie, 12 years into his pro career, is not without opinions, some of which we extracted from him in this conversation last night.
Doug, apparently life with the Argos is good, but let's just go back a bit. Tell me how good Calgary was for you, and is it true that you never wanted to leave?
Both of those things are true. I loved it here in Calgary, no question about it. I think it started with the coaching staff and your teammates. It was a great reception from the fans here. We won it all in '92. It just kicked everything off, and it was a great situation for me to be successful. I signed a 5-year deal with Larry to be here basically the rest of my career. And when things went down for him, basically it was dictated that I move on. And it wasn't by choice, because like I said, by choice I would have liked to have been here.
Now, about that deal, and you don't need me to defend you, but I don't know that many people know this. You weren't getting paid regularly last year, in some cases not at all. You suffered a career-threatening injury, came back early from elbow surgery to lead the team in the playoffs, with the knowledge you probably still weren't going to get paid. What's that saying?
I mean, it just says that I love football and I love to play. And it was a situation where I was keeping my fingers crossed that eventually I would get paid. But what do? Do you let down 30 of your teammates or 35 of your teammates and your coaching staff and everything you work for to take a stance and say, I'm not getting paid, I'm not playing this week? And you took it week by week, you went ahead and played, and you did it. And come playoff time especially, you want to be there and give your team the best chance that you think you can give them to win a Grey Cup.
In the middle of all that, and I don't want to make this sound like it's a really sad story, but in the middle of all that, you find out that your son is autistic. How tough was that to deal with then, and how are you coping now?
When I realized it hit me like a ton of bricks. He had regressed. He had been developing typically or normally until he was about 2.5 to 3, and then he regressed over about a 6-month period. And you really didn't notice just how much he regressed until you went back and watched some video of him talking and the things he did do. And we took him in for some testing, and it really hit us like a ton of bricks. And it kind of puts things in perspective. I mean, I live and die each weekend with your game, and winning and losing is what it's all about. And then you realize, well, maybe that stuff's not quite so important. And I said it last week that I'd give up any football game in order to have him develop normally, be able to speak or whatever over the next couple of years.
I know you're going to tell me this is not for you to decide, but you have a very real prospect now of becoming the first player ever to win the Outstanding Player Award with 3 different teams. Do you think when you're done in the CFL that you'll be remembered as the greatest player of all time in this league?
I don't know. People have thrown that around, and that's something that you let other people decide. I just enjoy playing. I want to be remembered as a competitor and a winner, a guy that went out and every time he stepped on the field, played consistent football and gave it everything he had. And I can live with that. If it goes beyond that, that's fantastic.
Let me throw this out at you, because a lot of people have said it. Marquee players who make your kind of money are killing the CFL. What's your response to that?
Well, my response would be, I don't know. I'm doing my thing. I go out and play football. And if I'm not making anybody pay me big money, if they want to pay me big money to play on their team, that's great. Obviously, there are owners out there that believe it's helping their franchise and it's making it worthwhile for them and gives them the best opportunity to win. If you didn't have marquee name, people like to be able to identify with the people they're watching on TV. And I think the bigger problem is that the players don't stay in the same city long enough. So the people in the city lose the identity of the team and lose the identity of players. I think that's something that's been great here in Calgary, is we have in Calgary kept a core of players. So people know Alondra Johnson, they know Marvin Pope, they know Alan Pitts and David Sapunjas. And it's not like that in all the cities.
Freudian slip, maybe. We in Calgary.
Exactly. I still feel a part of that, especially being back here this week.
Doug, I thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
In the first half, this play aside, Flutie kept under wraps by the Calgary defense, all the Argos scoring off the foot of Mike Vanderchat. The Stamps lead. Back with more on the BF Goodrich TA halftime report in a moment. Sun's going down on the foothills of the Rockies. The Stampeders leading as we continue with the BF Goodrich TA halftime report. In Ottawa this afternoon, Montreal had a chance to seize control of second place in the East Division, bidding for a 4-point lead over Hamilton. Here's Mark Lee with the details.
This was one of the most electrifying plays of the game. A missed Terry Baker field goal taken by Kenny Wilhite, and then the return was on. All kinds of open field hits as Wilhite scrambles 117 yards for the touchdown, the third longest missed field goal return for a TD in CFL history, and it was 17-1 Ottawa. Then the Alouettes, not panicking, come back. The toss to Mike Pringle around the right side. and he rumbles 31 yards into the Ottawa end zone to cut the lead to 17-15. And with 24 seconds to go in the third quarter, Ham scrambling spots Chris Armstrong in the end zone for the touchdown, and Montreal takes the lead for the first time, 22-17.
James, that's a team the Argos should worry about should they meet in the East Final. Do you agree?
It's a team that has gotten progressively better as the season is carried on, and they could cause some problems for those guys as the season plays on into the playoffs.
Chris, much of the first half here at McMahon, a defensive ball game. We should not be surprised at that after doing the big takeout on Doug Flutie at halftime.
I think Doug Flutie could have a lot to say before this game's over, just like he did in the final drive in the final minute, but Doug Flutie and company will have to play from behind after Jeff Garcia got off to a quick start.
He got off to a good start. He stepped up in the pocket, hit Anderson on the 15-yard go route out of the backfield as he circled on Michael Shea, but they were able to come back later. Alan Pitts on a straight seam working against Simmons, got the separation. They had a little hand fighting going on, but Garcia with the perfect strike for the second touchdown of the first half.
And we should point out, Doug Flutie, 152 yards passing in the first half of this game, so he's broken Conrad Holloway's Argo team record. That's the BF Goodrich TA halftime report. Stand by now for the second half, coming up from McMahon Stadium in Calgary.
On September the 21st, it was 23-22 Toronto, and we could be just as tight in this one. It was 13-4 Calgary at the half in that game, and the Stampeders have a 5-point lead here as we start the second half with Pinball Clements. And Clements has a seam and is over the 45, close to midfield, and finally driven out of bounds. That's the biggest specialty team play by the Argos so far, and good way to start this second half after ending the first half with an outstanding drive.
Well, you see the net yards right there, and you talk about the kickoff return, and that's what happened for the Argos at the start of the game when Clemens got the good kickoff return back out to midfield. But no turnovers for the Argonauts in the first half. They only have 4 field goals, but no turnovers, most important.
Well, those stats tell you these are two well-matched teams, well-coached, everything down the line. Talented teams, and Pinball's on the limp as Flutie goes back to work from the Calgary 50. Short field to start. A lot of steamboats, and now he throws the interception. Picked off. That's the first. Marvin Coleman. Well, Doug has told us in the past that Coleman has that ability to gamble and make you pay. Flutie in on the tackle, but he loved the throwback.
He loves the throwback, but that's what Doug does, is that he buys himself the extra time. If you look at the length of time that he had in the pocket, but a great adjustment by Marvin Coleman in the secondary. When he saw that Flutie was throwing off his heel back into the grain, he made the jump on Williams, who did not come back to the ball, but Doug Flutie, aggressive after throwing the interception, comes over and makes the tackle on Coleman, actually gets a piggyback ride out of bounds.
Ride 'em Cowboys, 6th interception of the year for Coleman, and now it's Calgary starting on a short field at the Argo 46. Kelvin Anderson, the ball carrier, squirting through. Anderson looked like he was slowed up about a yard past the line of scrimmage and then surged for a first down.
But that's what Kelvin Anderson needs to do. He needs to stay with the blocking scheme of his offensive line. He has to believe that they're going to open the hole, and he stayed behind his offensive line. He didn't try to bounce it, and he was able to pick up 9, close to 10 for a first down.
We're going to get a measurement. By the way, the Stampeders have been the best ball hawks in the CFL, 27 interceptions on the year. They have a giveaway takeaway ratio of plus 27, so nothing new for the Stamps to come up with a big turnover as they did there.
Well, Coleman just picked up his 6th of the year to move him one behind his teammate for second place in the league. But this is what you do defensively. We talked about the 2 head coaches, how defensive-minded they were, how they would gamble defensively, trying to make big plays to put their offense in good field position.
Anderson did have the first down. And the ball at the Toronto 36. Garcia going deep, looking for Pitts, and off his fingertips. incomplete. Well, we've seen this before, James. You know Jeff Garcia loves the home run ball.
Well, you have to go for the juggler. When you get an opportunity to put a team away, such as the Argonauts, you have to go for them. As we see the comparison of the two quarterbacks in the first half, the 2 touchdowns, but the 1 interception has hurt Jeff Garcia. He had gone 2.5 games without throwing one before throwing the one here in this game in the first half.
And now Flutie explaining to Don Matthews why he threw his first of the game. 2nd and 10, Calgary. Here comes the rush, and Garcia gets outside. Andrew Stewart in pursuit, and Garcia across the 30. They'll mark him out at the 29, and he'll be 3 yards short of a first down.
We spoke on a couple occasions about the aggressive running of Garcia. As you see him taking some time to get up off the turf. He runs for the sticks. He's not running for the boundary. He is running for the sticks. He is directing traffic as he turns the corner. He knows where the first down mark is, and he's doing everything in his power trying to pick it up. Even though he came short, he broke contain. Waldrop let him get outside. They came with the blitz. And Stewart was in hot pursuit. He just didn't have enough legs to get him there. But Garcia trying to pick it up. Only got 7, but he got the leg falling on as he was tackled.
So Garcia, Nick, goes to the sidelines. And on 3rd down, Mark McLaughlin is in. Reed, the holder, from 35 yards out. Mark McLaughlin is good. And the Stampeders restore an 8-point lead on their first possession of the second half. Argos opting to receive the kickoff instead of taking the ball at the 35. And not a good gamble this time, as Pinball Clements was nailed by Marvin Coleman at the 28-yard line. Well, Don Matthews saw the 49-yard return the last time for the pinball and wanted to give him another shot.
Well, as we see Daryl Adrellin, the special team coach for the Argonauts, he's the architect of all of those great returns and the scheme, the blocking scheme, and that is the key. He's become a specialist in that. You recall the team that he set up in Baltimore last year led the CFL in yardage return on special teams. They had Chris Wright, and now he's done it with Jimmy Cunningham and Mike Clemens in Toronto here in '96.
Fans in Calgary won't forget, or would like to forget, the Chris Wright punt return touchdown in the Grey Cup game. As Robert Drummond is stuffed as he hit the line of scrimmage. Ernie Brown, the rookie out of Syracuse, a former Saskatchewan Rough Rider, was waiting.
And he's one of those players that Saskatchewan hated to lose, but they had some roster problems with the ratio, and they had to put him on the practice roster. You see right here as he works back against the block, against the center, Mike Kislak. He stood him up, got the arm block where he could move laterally, and made the stop for no gain on the play.
Out of the shotgun, here comes the rush, and Alondra Johnson's the man in pursuit. Flutie got rid of it, complete to John Morgan, and he's going to be short of the first down at the, marking him at the 37. They had to get to the 40 to move the chains.
You talk about Alondra Johnson in hot pursuit of Doug Flutie. He may not have made a tackle or a sack on the play, but what he did was force Doug Flutie so deep in his drop that his receivers had to work back, and when they worked back, they came back past the first down sticks and came up short on the reception. Now Toronto has to punt once again.
Let's go, Calgary, make some noise.
Terry Vaughn has dropped back for Calgary. 5th in all-purpose yards in the CFL.
And what's so exciting about Terry Vaughn is the RAC, the run after the catch. He maybe is the most exciting player as a receiver and punt returner in the league.
Vanderjet kicking it away, and let's see what Vaughn does this time. Spun away from the first man.
Spins his way to the 34-yard line.
And that's where Calgary will put the ball in play.
46 yards.
At the 34-yard line as we recap the action. Argos struck first, and then the first major score, the Kelvin Anderson reception. After an offside call, Mark McLaughlin made it 10-3. Vanderjet nailed one from 49 yards out, then 28. 1-point game before the touchdown pass from Garcia to Pitts. Before the half was over, the Argos drove into field goal range. And in this second half, after a Doug Flutie interception, Mark McLaughlin has kicked his second field goal. and it's 20-12 for the Stampeders. There's the shovel pass to Anderson, and a nice play by veteran Don Wilson, who's had some big games here at McMahon Stadium as an Argo and Edmonton Eskimo.
Well, he's had some big games this season for Toronto. Last week's outstanding defensive player in the CFL had an outstanding game versus Winnipeg, and he's keeping the pace going here tonight versus Calgary.
No gain on the play. 2nd and 10 for Jeff Garcia.
Stampeders.
Garcia throwing the out, and it goes through the hands of the usually reliable Terry Vaughn.
That play that we just saw to Vaughn, if going into the last timeout, Vaughn and Garcia were discussing how Smith was playing him, that the out was open, as we get a shot of Freddie Childers jamming down on Waldrop, not allowing any penetration. And Waldrop is an outstanding defensive tackle, an Outland Trophy winner at the University of Arizona, but Freddie Childers was an All-American at Arkansas and is a load playing right tackle for Calgary.
The big chill froze him out that time.
Number 11, Tony Martino's in punt formation for Calgary.
But Tony Martino is back in to punt. Just his 2nd punt of the game. And Jimmy Cunningham is revving up the engines. Cunningham sprinted up to the ball, but couldn't get it before it hit the turf. Beats the first wave, beats the second wave. Jimmy Cunningham made a lot out of nothing there over the 45. That's the first time he's really cut loose in this game, and that's a 21-yard return for the Jet.
Well, it goes back to Daryl Adrellin and his blocking schemes. He put players on the special teams who love to play on this team because they go down and they make sure that they make a block. Because when you have a player that's as exciting as a Jimmy Cunningham, if you make your block, he can take it all the way back.
Surprised me talking to Cunningham yesterday. He's had an ankle problem and he's slow to get up. There was some speculation he might not play in this game, missed a day or two of practice. He did not run punts back until he got here to the CFL. Not in high school and not in college. He was a kickoff returner, but not a punt returner.
Well, he hurt his ankle on a touchdown reception last week versus Winnipeg. He caught a 20-yard seam route, and just as he made the catch, he got that toe planted when Greg Frears came over and made the hit, and he twisted the ankle and missed the rest of the game, and they seem to be checking that injury out right now because he's still down on the field.
9:22 to play in the 3rd quarter.
Or dinner, Husky House Restaurants with home-style meals,
and with Cunningham coming out of the lineup for at least 3 plays, Dwayne Dimitrition, former Calgary Stampeder, will come in to take his spot.
You know, when you look at the Argonauts receiving corps, it really doesn't matter who you have in there because all of the players in this scheme rise to the occasion. Dimitrition had a game with 7 receptions and 128 yards versus Saskatchewan in his first CFL start, and he was the team's leading receiver in that game. So it basically goes down the scale. All of the players will pick up the parts, the pieces. It's like a puzzle, and Doug Flutie is the key piece.
There's Dimitrition, number 28, going wide right. And Flutie. Clements in the flat, dodges Darrell Hall, gets outside. Pinball Clements stepped out of bounds. But some nifty work as he bounced around out there, living up to the nickname.
I want to go back to a play we saw just prior to halftime when Al Jordan made an open field tackle on Mike Clemens, and I spoke about how difficult and how important that one play was as we get a look at Mike Clemens as 5 different Stampeders miss him on the play, and he's able to get down across the 50 at the 47 to pick up the first down.
Into Calgary territory. 5 receivers out. Flutie over the middle and incomplete, intended for Drummond.
Number 29, Robert Drummond.
And Drummond's had trouble squeezing the football in this one.
He's dropped 3 of them tonight. Normally a sure-handed receiver. He dropped the post route when he had got behind McClanahan. Would have been a sure touchdown. And he drops this one here in the second half for his 3rd of the night. Some concern on Don Matthews' face as he paces the sideline. His team has just not been as crisp as he would like.
McClanahan zeroing in on Doug Flutie here, the 2nd and 10 play call. looked like they were going into the hurry-up offense, and then Flutie called them back to the huddle, and I think they ran out of time.
Gonna get a time count violation here.
Time count violation. Toronto, number 2, still second down.
Okay, you guys know how that works. Let's do it
They
again.
go into their hurry-up offense. They had a lot of success at the end of the first half running this scheme.
Here comes the rush. He got it away and through the hands of Masati. Looked like a catchable football, and Doug Flutie heated up a bit. I don't think he was happy with the way his team set up there on that last series. Had to take the delay of game call.
Well, he is expecting Masati to come back more towards him as he rounds out the route. He is not really concentrating on the football. The ball went right through his hands. That's a catchable ball. Any receiver who gets 2 hands on the ball, he should make the catch. Alondra Johnson working against Perez here. Perez is a monster of a man, and Alondra Johnson will have a problem trying to run through him. You have to run around him.
So Vanderjagt is in to punt on 3rd down, and Marvin Coleman is deep.
Making sure he has the proper personnel on the field.
Well, we've talked about Cunningham's prowess last year against Toronto. Coleman, an 83-yard punt return touchdown. And I don't think it sat well with Coleman that Cunningham got all the accolades in the first meeting. Alondra Johnson was in on Vanderjagt, but Vanderjagt a terrific kick, and this will be a single point. Coleman trying to draw them offside, and they're finally going to play. Or are they? I don't know if he's trying to kill the whole 3rd quarter here or not.
Well, they're not allowing Vanderjagt into that umbrella, and officials have to at some point blow the ball dead. You know that he's not going to return the ball. Step in as an official, take control of the game, blow it dead. That way you eliminate any ruckus with the players. You won't have any confrontation going on, and we won't see an objectionable call penalty thrown on the play.
Oh, we're midway through the 3rd quarter, a single point, a 2013 Calgary lead.
Courtesy of Breslauer Award.
Stamps leading by 7. 2 more names went up on the Stamps Wall of Fame at halftime. Offensive line stars Tony Pajkowski and Lloyd Fairbanks had their names etched on the wall. Fairbanks starred here from 75 to 82 and again from 89 to 91. Pajkowski from 55 to 65. Pajkowski had his name immortalized in CFL history by Cactus Jack Wells in Winnipeg. Viewers in Winnipeg will know of what I speak. And Lloyd Fairbanks from Raymond, Alberta, now runs a brake business in Lethbridge, Chris.
Yeah, good Alberta boy who closed out his career as Garcia. Gets over the 40 to the 43-yard line. Fairbanks' last game was in the Grey Cup game against the Toronto Argonauts in 1991.
Look good. Or
8 yards for Garcia on 1st down.
Wanda or Strombo. But I haven't, in other words, know the formation. When they had Drummond out here, right, they had pinball in the backfield, Drummond here, they ran Drummond underneath, right, with the flare, the pinball, right?
Self-describing what he was talking about is that they were checking the routes in the flat, making sure that the proper coverage was there on them.
2nd down and a couple. Maz Anderson crashes up to the 45 and should move the sticks. Well, Jeff Garcia looking more poised. Not big yardage numbers, but I think important to underscore 2 touchdown passes already in this game. And as the coach told us yesterday, he looks like he's just a little more relaxed than he was a few weeks ago when the pressure of the world seemed to be heaped on his shoulders, and in some cases, I think he put it on his own shoulders.
He did, but I think the strongest point of his game tonight is his willingness to run the football and run with authority.
1st down, he fakes it, and he's going to run himself. Here's Jeff Garcia into the Argo zone with a terrific run, finally stopped up by Johnny Harris.
And he's down. I think he might have got the wind slightly knocked out of him. He's going to get up and come back into the game, but that was a marvelous play fake to Anderson.
22 yards for Garcia. He limped off in the last series, and looks like he's been nicked again, but get some help from Alan Pitts.
You know, you talk about Allen making pass receptions, but look at his willingness to block on Don Odegaard once his quarterback had broken the line of scrimmage. As we see Danny Barrett, the backup quarterbacking, who has filled in on some nice occasions, backing up Jeff Garcia. They have a capable veteran in the wings.
And the nice thing about Danny Barrett is he's not going to sit on the sidelines demanding that he's in there. He fits the role perfectly. Anderson shut down this time by Rob Waldrop.
Runs into the Argonauts.
And it'll be second down.
Just another point about Danny Barrett. I think it's a perfect compliment with he
gain of maybe a yard.
Being the backup quarterback along with the offensive coordinator John Huffnagel. These two know each other very well because Danny was a starting quarterback under Huffnagel, so they read each other quite complimentary in helping out the young quarterback Garcia, who is the starter.
Danny Barrett was the starter for Calgary in the 91 Grey Cup game, a loss to the Argonauts. And it's the 25th anniversary of Calgary's Grey Cup win over Toronto. 2nd and 9, Garcia over the middle. Incomplete as he looked for Travis Moore once again. And it's 3rd down. Jeff Garcia has not completed a pass to Dave Sapunjas so far this evening.
Well, that was a problem with the two early in the season, and then Dave got on stride after they hit that Labor Day midpoint part of the season, and he picked up the tempo and got his numbers back up to where he was accustomed to having them. But the Argonauts are now starting to come with the pressure up front. They're starting to make Garcia feel it when he stays in the pocket, and they're forcing him to throw off his heels.
Well, Mark McLaughlin now sizing up a 49-yard attempt into a slight breeze. Last time from 54 yards out, he angled it into the corner.
Well, he's going to do that once again. He's going to angle this one to this side of the field.
And that may be worth 3 points in the long run, as McLaughlin does his job and backs the Argos up, although the spot is coming outside the 10 and still moving. So well, let's see where they're going to place that football. Looks like about the 16-yard line. Ottawa and Montreal will meet again next week at the Olympic Stadium as the Alouettes try to nail down second place. And next Sunday it'll be the Argos moving on to Edmonton with a stop in Red Deer in between, and we'll have it for you at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. Just a reminder, viewers in Ontario, Quebec, and Eastern Canada, you won't see this hour as 22 minutes in its normal time slot. Catch it Wednesday at 9:30, 10 o'clock in Newfoundland. Jeeps, that's my favorite show. I'm missing it tonight, but I'll be watching Wednesday.
But you have to be here with me, sir.
There's Flutie pulling it down. And Doug Flutie trying to get outside and paid the price as he stopped at the 29-yard line. That's a first down and a gain of 15 yards. Well, I'm now told 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 9:30 in Newfoundland for this hour is 22 minutes.
Well, that's within the time that you have to go to bed, so you'll be okay. Watch Doug Flutie as he gets out into the open field, but the hustle by Marvin Pope coming down, making the tackle on the Toronto quarterback, stopping him after picking up the first down.
Flutie over the middle, and there's Paul Mazzotti.
Flutie's complete to number 8.
Up to the 39-yard line, close to a first down.
10 yards.
It'll be
Jackie Kellogg, number 3, recovered.
He's going to be just a bit short, but what the Argos are doing is that they're running clear-out routes with Tyrone Williams and bringing Mazzotti back underneath at that 9 and 10-yard range to get the completions to keep the drive marching.
Paul Mazzotti, after another 1,000-yard season, came into the game with 840. Short yardage team in for Toronto.
This is one of those situations where you'd like to get Flutie to boot it with his speed.
And Doug did run down the line, turned it up for the first down, but got a yard or two on the play. The third quarter's been a big one for the Argos this season. They have outscored their opponents 125-43. And the third quarter was the critical and decisive quarter in the last meeting between these two teams when the Argos outscored the Stampeders 16-0. So
it was Jet time in the third quarter, but the Jet now has been grounded on the sideline, so they're going to have to find other ways to get on the scoreboard.
And so far tonight, it's 3-1 Calgary in this third quarter with 2:36 to play. Flutie, outside, pinball. Daryl Hall wraps him up and takes him down. Boy, what a welcome return Daryl Hall got to this Calgary lineup, a two-time All-Canadian before 3 years in the NFL.
Well, he's such a marvelous athlete that he can play a couple different positions. They play him at weak side linebacker, but originally in his career here in Calgary early, he was a defensive halfback. He has that mobility. Now he has that size and strength to step up and stop the run.
Pinball has gone over 1,000 yards on the season in rushing, or in receiving, and 9 catches, 95 yards today. He now has 96 catches on the season. He's obviously hurting at the moment, but boy, he's hurt some defenses this season with his receiving. 2nd and 3, and up the middle goes Pinball. Maybe he was playing possum with us there.
Well, no, he's really hurting, but, you know, that's the type of player that a Mike Clemens is, even in pain, and that's the difference between a professional and a guy who is just out there to play the game. Mike Clemens is a pure professional that he can play through pain. Playing through pain and playing through injury are two different things, but you'll play through pain, and Mike Clemens will give you that on every play.
So it's first down, Toronto at the Argo 54. Jimmy Cunningham's back on the field. And J.P. Esquerdo out of the backfield with a catch and a penalty marker down.
Well, I think you're going to get Will Johnson offsides on the play. It was Will Johnson or Marvin Pope, one of those 91 or 81 numbers. And Calgary's going to pick up 5, and it's going to be 1st and 5.
Offside, Calgary, number 91, first down repeated.
Marvin Pope, the number announced, 1:23 to play in this third quarter.
Well, Marvin has been hustling tonight. He's picked up his tempo of play. He had got some criticism over the past couple of games about not being intense enough.
1st and 5. There's Clemens taking that handoff. Boy, he got nailed 3 times before he finally went down.
And you want to talk about a ball player making a play. Marvin Pope comes across the line of scrimmage. The Argos are trying to run a counter trey. They pulled in 2 big offside offensive linemen, and he just submarines and disrupts the entire play. Watch here as Kislock and Perez, and Marvin Pope steps in and just destroys Kislock, not giving Clemens a convoy in front of him, and his teammates makes the play.
Well, Big Daddy had 13 sacks last year, just 1 in the 1996 season so far. 2nd and 4. And Flutie finding the Jet. And Cunningham is in some difficulty again. Well, it does pop up, but he has shown the effects of an ankle problem in this second half as the clock is winding down in the third quarter that again has been dominated by the defenses.
Well, he was a bit angry at a shot that Alondra Johnson took on him just as he thought he was down. Alondra Johnson came across and scraped him across the top of the shoulders, and he was a little steamy about that.
From the 43, what should be the final play of the third quarter. The Argos 1st and 10. Flutie pumps once, has Masati, as Marvin Coleman bid on the fake, and Mazzotti's inside the 10.
Jimmy Cunningham on the play.
Jimmy Cunningham, indeed. And again on the limp, but Doug Flutie closing out this third quarter with a big play, 34 yards to Jimmy Cunningham. And the Argos are threatening when we start the fourth quarter from McMahon Stadium. Face masking penalty against the Stampeders. 1st and goal for the Argos, and the give to Clemens, and he's pushed back. Nothing there for pinball.
And Rodney Harding, the veteran defensive tackle, gets the good surge up the middle. He submarined underneath the offensive line, able to stop pinball before he could get ahead of steam. And the Calgary comes up with the big play on first down.
Harding and Mazzotti having words, the old teammates. And that now is the end of the third quarter from McMahon Stadium. Well, Don Matthews' team was outscored 3-1 in the third quarter, trailed by 7 as we head to the fourth quarter, but the Argos in a position to tie this game early in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and Don is always working the sidelines and working that gum also, but he has his team right now in prime position to get in for their first major of the game, and this is where you like to have a quarterback with the mobility and the options of a Doug Flutie. You look at his passing arsenal that he possesses, and also look for him to get outside the pocket to buy himself some extra time, extend the play in that 5-second range.
Don Matthews saying yesterday, and I think it's been a familiar refrain wherever Doug Flutie goes, that Matthews too believes that Doug Flutie is the greatest player to ever play in the CFL.
Well, I think it speaks for itself that he's going to win his 5th MVP this year, and he's done it in BC, he's done it in Calgary, and now he's going to do it in Toronto as we see the stats over the first 3 quarters. Both teams even with a turnover apiece, but the yards now passing. Doug Flutie up over 230, and the rushing yards, he's accumulated a lot of those yards on his own. Anderson has done a marvelous job controlling the clock tonight for Calgary.
Doug Flutie has broken Conrad Holloway's Argo record for most passing yardage in a season. And when you talk about who the greatest quarterback in CFL history is, the guy I always refer to, number 23, Ronnie Lancaster, now the head coach of the Edmonton Eskimos, and no one is more complimentary of Doug Flutie than Mr. Lancaster.
As a pure passer, Ron Lancaster is the greatest quarterback, but as an athlete, Doug Flutie is the greatest athlete and quarterback to ever play this game.
Clements to the goal line and over, touchdown Argos, and they are within a point of tying this game.
Well, they've taken the win out of the sails of the Stampeders here. You see players slowly getting up off the field, but watch the surge at the offensive line as they come off the ball and they create a seam for Mike Clemens to sneak through and get into the end zone for the major.
Toronto Argonauts, the second highest scoring team in the CFL, but they were into their 5th quarter without a touchdown until pinball scored 10 seconds in to this quarter. They were held without a touchdown in the second half last week against Winnipeg. Vanderjagt adds the extra point, and 20-20 is the score. Just nicely underway in the fourth quarter, and these two teams giving us what we expected again in their second matchup of the year.
Well, Mike Clemens has been the workhorse tonight for Toronto. He has carried the ball, he has caught it out of the backfield, but watch as he makes that plant and brings it back inside of Darrell Hall as he creeps over the goal line for the first touchdown tonight for Toronto to draw them even at 20 in the fourth quarter.
Talking about MVPs, Doug Flutie likely to win his 5th award, first man ever to win with 3 different teams. Pinball Clements, the last Argo to win the MVP award in 1990.
Well, you look at the numbers that Pinball has put up this year with the Argos. If he was not on the same team with the Doug Flutie.
To Rachel, to the Fords, in Mississauga, to the Phillips, and Barry. Happy Thanksgiving, all you guys. Love you. And we're going to pull this one out.
Maybe we should open up a long-distance service for all these players.
You know, we gave it to him this week because he's not going home after the game. They're going to Red Deer and then up to Edmonton for the game next week. So we'll save him a few long-distance calls. 20-20 the score, and a great matchup between the 2 top teams in the Canadian Football League at this point in the season. Terry Vaughn over the 35, up to the 38-yard line. A 28-yard return. First down, Stampeders at their own 39-yard line, locked in a tie here as Garcia rolls to the left and now cuts it back and runs into Rob Waldrop as he crossed the line of scrimmage. Got 3, maybe 4 on the play. James, one thing we haven't seen from Garcia that's typical of the Stampeders is spreading out the offense. He's only used 3 receivers in this game, and usually they go 5 or 6 deep in their receivers.
You had talked about Dave Sapunjas not being utilized earlier. Neither have we seen Vince Danielson tonight catching any passes. Only Pitts and Moore. And Terry Vaughn, the team's leading receiver coming into tonight's contest, has also drawn a blank.
Garcia has 3 of the top 8 receivers in the league, 4 of the top 25, 5 of the top 30. So there are weapons to be employed. And there is Sponge with his first catch. Dave Sapunjas, and this will depend on the spot of the football.
Well, you have to give him the forward progress, so he's going to be very close, and if he doesn't make it, you have to go if you're Calgary.
Well, looks like from here he does have the first down. Dave Sapunjas with catch number 67 on the year, and he goes over 900 yards with that last reception.
Well, he got off to that slow start over the first 6 games, and he picked up the pace. When he got to Labor Day, he had a couple games where he had 6, 7, and 8 receptions to get him back in the running for those big numbers that he had grown accustomed to.
Yeah, Sapunjas with a touchdown in each of the last 4 games.
Well, he is one of those guys who's a true team player. He did complain about not getting the ball. He knew that eventually he would be worked back into the scheme of things. And once he got back in the fold, Calgary got on a roll and they were having some success.
Had a lot of the Calgary greats out at halftime, including Herm Harrison. And to tell you what kind of career Dave Sapunjas has had, he passed Harrison on the all-time list last week in receptions by a Stampeder. That play did not fool Don Wilson in the least, as Kelvin Anderson is stopped behind the line of scrimmage for a loss of 2.
You talk about a veteran player who has seen just about everything. That's Don Wilson. He was not to be fooled as they came with the misdirection. He'll come from the right of your screen on this Statue of Liberty play, but watch he stay at home. He'll break down, and that's what you teach your defensive players. Break down, make that form tackle, come in low, wrap up, drop him for the loss on the play.
We're 2.5 minutes into the 4th quarter of a tie game.
And they're coming with their dime package. They have 7 defensive backs. That's Toronto in the game.
Here comes the rush. Garcia floats it over the middle, and it's picked off. That's Donald Smith. Second interception of the game, and there's a late hit at the 40-yard line.
Well, I wouldn't call it a late hit. Romano was blocked from behind by Smith. If you're going to call a late hit, you'd have to call it on Toronto on the block. And he was knocked over into Smith as he was returning the interception.
No penalty markers on the play, but a big turnover, and an injured Calgary Stampeder Travis Moore is down as Garcia has thrown his 2nd interception of the game and his 13th of the season. Adrian Smith had his 5th earlier. Now Donald Smith has his 5th pick of the year.
What I want to show you on the interception, watch Jeff Garcia's feet. He's not planning. He is leaping in the air, trying to throw the ball 30 yards down the field. You can't get any velocity on a pass of that distance. All you're doing is serving it up for the secondary, and Donald Smith made him pay.
In the first half, Garcia was outplaying Doug Flutie, but in this second half now, Flutie with an opportunity to take control, and he does on the ground and slides feet first for a first down at the 27, and the experience of number 2 starting to show.
You talk about outplaying in the first half, and so often the phrase 60 minutes has been used in the game of football, but it is so true. You have to play 60 minutes. You can't worry about what you did in the first half when you come out in the second half. You have to continue to play, but I still go back to at the end of the first half. If you recall, Toronto scored the field goal, and I said if you allow the cheap points for Toronto, that it would burn you in the second half, and they've drawn even, threatening to go ahead.
1st and 10. Flutie, and he delivered that ball low to Mazzotti, incomplete.
Well, that time Doug himself, victim of his own poor mechanics, trying to throw off of his back heel and sidearm. You're not going to get the ball to carry with any distance, throwing sidearm off your back heel.
Well, Doug said every point is a struggle against a defense like Calgary's, and that's been the case in this one.
Yeah, that's a great compliment that a quarterback will pay to a defense.
2nd and 10. Flutie with lots of time, and Clements coming back against the grain after making the catch, but really couldn't get his footing. And this looks like it will be
It's about 2 yards short. And that's been Calgary's best defense against Toronto all night against Mike Clemens, really. The turf monsters, you see he loses his own footing as he's trying to cut back underneath. He is such an elusive ball carrier, and he does so many things once he gets his hands on the ball. He just couldn't get his feet back under him, and he fell short of the first down.
10th catch of the game for Clemens, 97 on the year. The only Argo ever to get into triple figures in a season, Terry Greer.
And he was a great one. He had 113 for 2,003 yards back in 1983.
So Vanderjagt to kick the Argos into the lead from 27 out. He's good. And the Argos have their first lead since Vanderjagt opened the scoring at the outset of the game.
Come on, you guys, let's hear it.
Jeff Garcia's chin strap is undone. Danny Barrett's is strapped up. Look at the numbers from the first half to the second. There were a couple of touchdown passes in the first half, but Garcia's offense has stalled in the second half.
Well, I think what they recognize from the sideline is that he's grown impatient. He's gotten happy in the pocket. He is not going back to his mechanics. He's gotten away from it.
Terry Vaughn from his 11. Shakes off the first contact, and a flag goes down as Vaughn was belted at the 26, a 16-yard return.
And we're going to get a clip on the play that's going to pin Calgary even deeper.
So Danny Barrett has come out for the Calgary Stampeders. Second time he has relieved Garcia in a game against Toronto.
And if you recall in that first game that he relieved Garcia, the first play.
League of block, Calgary, number 44, first down.
The first play, Toronto brought the house. They brought everyone, and they sacked Danny Barrett on the play. Expect them to do the same thing. He's cold coming off the bench. He hasn't gotten into a rhythm. So if you're Toronto's defensive coordinator, Bill Bradley, you have to blitz Danny Barrett on the first play.
After that, though, Barrett was effective. 9 for 13, 139 yards, a touchdown pass, and he almost pulled it out for the Stampeders in relief that day. 10:15 to go. Barrett, first pass is a completion, and Terry Vaughn has his first catch.
And that's what you have to do. You talked about the complement of receivers that Calgary possesses, that you have to utilize all of your talents. Terry Vaughn now has been incorporated into the passing scheme. Dave Sapunjit has caught his first pass in the second half. Now let's look and see if Fitz Danielson can get involved also.
In fact, the big play in the fourth quarter for Barrett was a 42-yard pass to Vaughn, which set up a touchdown. Protection there, and Barrett with the home run ball for Vaughn, and it falls incomplete. Marcelo Simmons in on the coverage, and Danny has that trademark smile.
Well, that was a close one, but that was an excellent battle between Simmons and Vaughn. You like to see that two players going after the football, the officials letting them play because neither player gains an advantage over the other. It's just a good old-fashioned hand fight down the sideline, and Vaughn almost had that one, caught him on the corner of the face mask as it dropped over the shoulder. Excellent pass by Danny Barrett.
That not unlike the play that went for 42 yards when they hooked up at Skydome. Second and 10, Calgary. And another strike. This one to Alan Pitts, and Danny Barrett has the Stampeders moving in this fourth quarter with 9:10 to play.
What Toronto's secondary has to look at now is that the ball is arriving much quicker. There's much more velocity on Danny Barrett's pass. Watch the follow-through. He is gunning it like a baseball pitcher. The receivers are turning around. The ball is there. They have to react much quicker.
Don Odegaard forcing Pitts out of touch. And at the 46 of Calgary, first down. Pitts looking down that right sideline, and there was Danielson, unable to pull it down, but a flag is on the turf.
Well, that's what we spoke about, that you have to spread the ball around, because if you're going to 2 and 3 receivers on a play-by-play basis, then secondaries will take a chance and gamble. And they're going to call this on Danielson, the interference. I'd like to see another look at this one, because this is a questionable call here.
Good call, ref.
Heard somebody at the Argo bench say good call.
Good job, Odie. Good job, Odie.
Forward pass interference. Calgary, number 88, decline. Second down.
Well, they made the call.
Get off the field.
It was not apparent there.
Maybe it happened coming off the line of scrimmage. And they declined the penalty on the play.
2nd and 10. Over the middle. And there's a completion to Dave Sapunjas and another first down. So he goes to Vaughn for the first time. That's just the second catch for Sapunjas. He went to Danielson, so he's trying to spread it out.
He has spread it around. Alan Pitts has also caught a pass, but watch as Sapunjas goes down to the turf to make the reception and cradles the football, make sure that he gets underneath it to ensure the reception.
1st and 10.
Well, that's how close it's been. Argos with a 3-point lead. And Barrett, another pass in the flat, complete to Kelvin Anderson. At the 45, he has 6.
What has amazed me is that Toronto has not tried to blitz Danny Barrett. They have let him sit back in the pocket and gain his confidence.
Well, Kelvin Anderson, his stats, success rate from first half to second, matching that of Jeff Garcia.
And if you think about that, Calgary controlled the ball in the first half. They controlled the ball on the ground as well as in the air, and Calvin Anderson had not been used here in the second half up until recently.
Kelvin Anderson had 50 yards on the first series for the Stampeders. 2nd down, Barrett was hit, but hit Alan Pitts for a first down.
And Danny Barrett was complaining about a late hit from Reggie Givens in the pocket, that he felt that he was hit well after delivering the football, and he was pointing to the official looking for a potential call. You'll get a good look as Barrett delivers the ball. The ball is away and Givens comes in. Very questionable right there, but Barrett keeps the drive moving with another first down strike.
Reggie Givens started the year as the middle linebacker out of the great linebacking school of Penn State, now the rush end, and Danny Barrett showing you all the poise of a 12-year veteran. Barrett takes another lick but gets the ball away, and Terry Vaughn has another catch. 7 minutes to go, and the Stampeders are marching.
You know, they haven't made it into the end zone, but you have to be very impressed with the poise and the leadership of a Danny Barrett. He feels the pressure from a Waltrip, moves slightly to his right to find himself an open throwing lane, and delivers another strike to Vaughn.
Stamps operating without a huddle. And under their new general, Mr. Barrett, are on the move. Quick hitter over the middle again. Dave Sapunjas is down at the 13. Ball came loose, but they say the play was dead.
And it's a good call, but rightfully, the Argonauts blitz for the first time on this play. And watch, there's no safety in the middle as Namaco comes up. They brought the halfback on the blitz, and Namaco had to rotate across, and it left the middle open. First down, Calgary.
Sapunjas didn't quite cradle that the way he did the last time you pointed it out.
He was looking to run.
First down at the 13. Tough snap, handled well by Barrett into the end zone. Touchdown, Alan Pitts. Danny Barrett on fire off the bench, and Pitts has his second touchdown catch of the evening.
You talk about a corkscrew move by a receiver. Alan Pitts turned Marcelo Simmons inside out and back again because he didn't have a clue. But an excellent route run by Pitts, excellent toss by Barrett. But the offensive line, you got to give them credit. They gave the quarterback time throughout this entire drive. He wasn't touched. Touchdown the result.
9 touchdowns on the season for Pitts. The extra point makes it 27-23 Calgary with 5:23 to go. We've got a dandy going at McMahon Stadium in Calgary. Pitts has had quite an evening. 8 catches, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, and what a drive. But was this a fumble that should have turned the ball over to the Argos?
Well, you spotted it from the booth here. The knee was not down. The ball was clearly out. That's a call that was missed by the officials, and it kept the drive alive, and Calgary went on to capitalize on it as Barrett was able to scoop up the bad snap, keep the poise, and find Alan Pitts in the back of the end zone.
Here's Pinball Clements on the kickoff return. Well contained by the revved up Stampeders, and Coleman and Clements go face mask to face mask.
Exchanging pleasantries.
How about Danny Barrett off the bench? 8 for 9, 94 yards.
Well, I think even though he was 8 for 9, I think you got to extend that beyond up into the offensive line, because they gave Danny Barrett the time. They knew that he's more of a, they know that he's more of a drop back passer than Garcia is, that he's going to stay in the pocket, and they have to hold on to that block just that split second longer.
How many times have we seen this at McMahon Stadium? Doug Flutie in the 4th quarter of a football game, ready to engineer a winning march of his own. This time in white and blue, and he finds another former Stampeder, Tyrone Williams, coming across, tripped up by Coleman, but the Argos start this drive with a first down.
And Williams has been quiet tonight. He was a receiver who looked in the first half of the season. We've talked about a lot of players in the first half of the season having great numbers. In the second half, they've kind of fallen off the table a bit.
He did get off to a torrid start, and in his last 4 games, only 7 catches. So Tyrone's been quiet, but a big target for Doug Flutie, who tries the shovel pass. Clements broke the first tackle, lunging to the 45, and a gain of 6 for Mike Clements, who continues to have another brilliant season.
He ran right through the arms of Anthony McClanahan. You expect for that your linebackers to be able to make sure open field tackles. Watch as he bounces right off of McClanahan, who failed to wrap up and picks up 6 yards after contact.
Over 1,000 yards receiving.
And the Argos have their short yardage team, and it's 2nd and 4. This is a very interesting call if they decide to run it.
Under 4 minutes to play. Flutie, the option, and now throws, and the ball incomplete. Well, the Stampeders defensed it perfectly and forced Flutie to throw it into the turf.
I really have to question that call, bringing in your short yardage team when you need to pick up 4 yards on 2nd down. You need to keep your normal offensive set in, allow yourself multiple options. You know, if you're Calgary, that the only option is really to run the football. He tried to run the veer. It wasn't there. Alondra Johnson made a nice play of coming across the line of scrimmage, disrupting, gave him one option, and he threw short of Mazzani.
That was a big play by Alondra Johnson. And now Vanderjagt with 1 man back, Marvin Coleman. A 4-point Stampeder lead with 3:33 to go. Big kick by Vanderjagt. And no yards will be the call, as the newcomer, Johnny Harris, encroached on that 5 yards, a 45-yard punt.
45 yards for Vanderjagt on the kick.
And Johnny Harris showing a little bit of emotion after making that tackle. You got to understand, with a young player, you got to just walk away and play the next down.
No yards. Toronto, number 19. First down.
He never had to worry about that no yards call in arena football.
Danny Barrett was marvelous in his last stint on the field for the Calgary Stampeders, marching his team all the way down for a major 8 for 9, 94 yards, and a touchdown pass to Alan Pitts. Does he have any reserve left for a repeat performance?
He'll try to put it out of reach. and/or chew up the clock. Good protection, though, for Barrett again. Throwing that long out to Travis Moore on the far side of the field. Up at the 41, pickup of 5. Donald Smith in coverage.
You know, they've made adjustments bringing Danny Barrett in the game. They've also brought Bruce Covington, left offensive tackle, back in the game, who's been suffering from a shoulder injury, and he has his work cut out for him, working against Demetrius Maxey.
2 minutes, 52 seconds to go in this second half at McMahon Stadium, and a timeout on the field. Danny Barrett has never said anything to create a quarterbacking controversy in Calgary, but maybe in this case actions speak louder than words, because if Barrett keeps playing like this, people are going to wonder who should be starting for the Stampeders.
Well, it's going to create a lot of interesting conversation here in Calgary, because the performances he has had this season coming off the bench. If you go back and remember the Montreal game, the previous Toronto game that he came off the bench, he has had some success in a game versus Ottawa coming off the bench. He has put the numbers up, but that's the plus of going out signing a Danny Barrett in the offseason as an insurance policy.
But this one very much still in doubt as Doug Flutie awaits. It's second down and about 4.5 yards for the Stampeders. If they're stopped short, Flutie's going to get the football back with a lot of time on the clock. And a 4-point deficit, 27-23. Calgary with the lead.
Well, we were talking during the timeout how interesting it would be if Calgary was to go down and score just a field goal and give opportunity for Doug Flutie and Toronto to come back down and put a major on the board and possibly take this one into overtime.
Andrew Stewart on the defensive line for the Argos. His target is Barrett. Look at the time, and Barrett throws another strike. Dave Sapungis has become a huge factor in this fourth quarter after being silent for the first 45 minutes.
Danny Barrett's offensive line is getting the job done up front. They know the veteran quarterback is going to sit in the pocket. We see Covington working against Givens. There's a lot of speed out there, but Covington is very crafty, and he knows how to utilize his body position. But Sapungis running all the way across the scheme, finding the open spot, picking up another Calgary first down.
Well, the Argos have had outstanding play from their defensive line throughout this season, but they have lost defensive ends at either side. Tim Cofield gone, Alex Gordon gone. That's Marcelo Simmons now down out of the Argos secondary. They brought in Oscar Giles to replace Gordon. He is down. They're not sure when they'll be back. Demetrius Maxey becomes yet another defensive end. And Reggie Givens has been moved from middle linebacker into the rush end. So maybe Calgary is exploiting what's been a banged-up situation on the Argo defensive line.
Well, you have to recognize offensively where the defense is undermanned, and that's what Danny Barrett has done. He's had a great opportunity for 3 quarters to sit on the sideline, he and John Huffnagel to confer with each other, understanding what Toronto's defensive scheme was.
Well, there's Dave Sapungis and his impact in the second half. Danny Barrett throwing the out, and Sapungis with that straight arm on Johnny Harris. And Harris gave him a straight arm back.
Well, I'll tell you the difference right now in Dave Sapungis is that he's playing aggressive. He is taking the blow to the defender instead of accepting the blow. And that's what happened when you have momentum. You are willing to go out and take that extra step to get that extra yards. And watch the shot by Sapungis to deliver a forearm right into the chin and pick up the first down.
Ball at the 37. Well, Dave Sapungis showing you why he's one of the most valuable receivers in the Canadian Football League, and the Slots have done it again because Pitts on the other side has 2 touchdown receptions. And now Kelvin Anderson bursts through the middle and down to the 26. That will move the chains. And since Barrett has come in, the Stampeders offense has been on fire.
And once again, you have to look at the offensive line. The surge coming off the ball, getting that penetration off into the Argos defense, driving them off the football, allowing Anderson that gaping hole that you could drive a truck through, and picking up yet another Calgary first down.
Don Matthews took a look at the clock. It's running with 1:38 to play. And that right now is as impressive as what Barrett's doing to move the ball into scoring position. Barrett will keep it on the naked bootleg. Dove under Maxey, but is down at the 30 behind the line of scrimmage. Loss of 4.
Well, they have utilized a lot of time off the clock on this drive. They've kept the clock running.
And now the Argos will stop that clock. With 1:24 to go, they take their timeout.
But what do you do now when you're Calgary on your next down? Do you run the ball or do you take a chance and pass it and possibly have an incompletion? Because if the incompletion comes, the clock stops. So you're going to have to keep the ball on the ground at least one more play. We see the Calgary offense conferring on the sideline. The receivers, both quarterbacks talking with offensive coordinator John Huffnagel.
Right here between the UFC Dinos.
Look at those numbers since coming in relief of Jeff Garcia.
And what has Bill Bradley called from upstairs from the coaching box to try to defense this Calgary offense that has been unstoppable in the last 2 series?
Second down, close to 15. Again, great protection over the middle, incomplete. A diving attempt on the play by Vince Danielson. And he couldn't reel it in, and Calgary will have to settle for 3.
And Danny Barrett knows he had his open man running the post route over the middle. He just led Danielson too far. A catchable ball nevertheless, but also Danny could have gotten a little more height on that ball where he wouldn't have had to stretch out and extend himself and would have made a comfortable reception. Now this is very important, this field goal attempt.
A 4-point Stampeder lead. Mark McLaughlin trying to make it a full converted touchdown advantage as he attempts a 37-yarder. High snap, timing off, but McLaughlin gets the job done. That's a big kick by Mark McLaughlin. Kevin Reed got it down, and McLaughlin made no mistake.
A marvelous job by Kevin Reed. The concentration, the ball was up in his face mask. Wayne Drinkwalter is the long snapper on the play. The ball went high, but that's why you use a guy with sure hands. Kevin Reed is a backup second-year receiver from the University of Calgary. Got the ball down on the tee. McLaughlin put it through.
There's Kevin Reed. That's his biggest play of the game.
See you tomorrow. Thank God that one got on the tee.
Well, Doug Flutie talked about 1992 when he drove his team 77 yards in 77 seconds, and with 1:16 to go, he trying to engineer another big march, but Jimmy Cunningham can't bring that one in.
I tell you, that was a very catchable ball. Also, Doug Flutie put that ball right on the money. Cunningham had got behind Jordan. You go back 2 weeks ago when Paul Mazzotti got behind Jordan, when Jordan bit on the route, and it cost Calgary a 97-yard touchdown to put the game out of reach.
That drive Flutie was referring to was in the Western Final. And with the Stampeders down, Flutie engineered a last-minute march, lost his shoe when he ran into the end zone to beat Edmonton, and the next week they beat Winnipeg to win their only Grey Cup with Doug Flutie as their quarterback. 2nd and 10, and the crowd in an uproar. Pressure on. And Doug Flutie has a man open, and Jimmy Cunningham is loose down the sidelines to the Calgary 45. Al Jordan is the man matched up against Cunningham.
And once again, Doug Flutie has recognized that is a weakness in Calgary's secondary, that Jordan is not willing to stay with the receiver. He is going to bite and come up, and the receiver keeps running and gets behind the coverage. As you see Cunningham, once he sees his quarterback breaks contain, he keeps running, and Jordan has set down on the play, and he picks up great field position to the 46-yard line.
Well, that ankle problem has flared up for Cunningham, but he stays in, and now it's nail-biting time for Frank Spaziani. Here comes the blitz. Flutie under pressure, gets it away, almost picked off. Al Jordan, victimized on the last play, almost made amends.
Almost became a hero. But the blitz by Calgary coming up to force Flutie out of the pocket. You'll see right here as Davis comes on the halfback blitz, and Jordan was just a stride away from picking that one off.
51 seconds to go. It's a 7-point Stampeder lead. 2nd and 10, Argonauts at the Calgary 46.
This is the play of the game right here. Even though it's 2nd down, this is the play of the game.
What's the Flutie call? Here they come, and the look back to Drummond, who can't hang on. Oh, he could have gone a long way with that one.
You talk about a guy designing a play that he knew would get maximum yardage. That's Doug Flutie. He called the screen pass. He had the pass rush bearing down on him. Robin Drummond slips out of the back door. The ball is just a bit high, a catchable ball, and he could have been running still.
Wow.
Now this is do or die, 3rd and 10.
All down to one play now.
But you got to look back at 2nd and 10. That was a great opportunity to pick up valuable yards.
Out of the shotgun into the line, and now under pressure, got away. How'd he do that? But it's incomplete. Late flag. There's a late hit, and this drive may continue.
And if it might be Anthony McClanahan who came in there late. The ball was well out of Doug Flutie's hands, and
this game was over.
Roughing the passer, major foul. Calgary number 41, 1st down 20.
Unbelievable. Anthony McClanahan, who had talked so much about wanting to get to Flutie, gives Doug Flutie another chance to pull it out for Toronto.
You talk about being mental in a game like this. This game, that ball is gone. He comes by and he takes a real cheap shot. That is a real cheap shot. And plays like that, that's what losing teams normally make. But that is very stupid of Anthony McClanahan. That's a bonehead play.
And now it's 1st down at the 31. More time for Flutie. And flags go down as the intended receiver was Tyrone Williams.
You're going to get Jackie Kellogg flagged on this play. Back-to-back penalties. They're moving the ball with the flag.
I asked Doug Flutie last night, what's with Anthony McClanahan? And he said, you know, I worried about playing against a lot of my former teammates in Toronto. And he said, there weren't any cheap shots except McClanahan, who a couple of times gave him forearms into the ribs and whatnot.
Legal contact on an eligible receiver. Calgary, number 3, 1st down.
Jackie Kellogg called. So Flutie said, here's a guy trying to make a name for himself, trying to get at me, but they'll be talking about McClanahan tomorrow, but not for the right reasons.
It's like I said, it was a bonehead play. That's a mental thing. And you cannot be stupid when the game is on the line.
Flutie over center because with this crowd noise, they can't hear the signals from the shotgun. And that one's knocked down at the line of scrimmage.
Will Johnson got his hands up on the play. Will Johnson has not been a factor tonight in the pass rush, but you teach great pass rushes. If you can't get there, get the hands up. Now watch Will Johnson at the top of your screen there. Goes high, deflects the ball down. It's 2nd and 10.
29 seconds to go. The ball at the Calgary 21.
And this game is still in question because of Anthony McClanahan.
The 7-point lead. Boy, this crowd in an uproar. Flutie got it away high, incomplete. And we're down to 3rd and 10 for the Argos. Jimmy Cunningham, the intended receiver.
Now, my big question is, where will Anthony McClanahan line up? Will they send him on the blitz, or will they drop him back in coverage?
And what conversations have been and will be taking place in that defensive huddle?
Well, he's the man on the hook right now. It's all coming down to this one play, and the reason why this drive was extended was because of the penalty on Doug Flutie.
One last shot, 3rd and 10 with 24 seconds to play. Here comes the blitz. Flutie throwing it, and it's incomplete. Masadi said he had the catch, but it's ruled incomplete. And the Calgary Stampeders are going to survive a last-ditch drive by their old quarterback.
You talk about being able to get all that you can out of a football game. We have witnessed that here tonight at McMahon Stadium. Paul Mazzotti is still upset because he might have gotten down. We'll see right here. The ball did clearly fall through his arms, and it was on the turf. A nice call by the officials. They made the proper call as Knox came through and closed. But Calgary is going to hold on for the victory.
Well, Calgary's answer to Dennis Rodman survives the day, but he'll have a chat with Wally Buono.
Yeah, he'll have a meeting in the coach's office tomorrow when they come in for that rundown after reviewing the game film. But he left his team out on a hook. But an outstanding game tonight played by both teams. You have to tip your hat. A well-played game by both sides. Danny Barrett coming in and released, pulling it out for Calgary. Doug Flutie playing a marvelous game in his first game back here in Calgary. And both offensive lines giving their quarterbacks adequate time to throw the football.
Frank Spaziani getting his message across. Well, Edmonton, Montreal, Hamilton, there's a few teams that are going to have a say yet. But if Calgary and Toronto meet in the Grey Cup, we've got quite a matchup.
We do, and Danny Barrett, I mean, he deserves any accolades that he may receive from his performance tonight because he came in cold off the bench, engineered a 9-play, 94-yard, make that a 10-play, 94-yard drive, 4 touchdowns with that final pass to Alan Pitts and bringing his team back in the next series, marching them down for a game-clinching field goal to secure the victory versus Toronto.
Anthony McClanahan can breathe a little easier. 30-23 the final. Let's join Scotto.
All right, Joshua and Danny Barrett celebrating the victory. Danny couldn't talk to us until he gave the game ball to Joshua. He's his man. He says, Danny, tell me about rescuing the Stampeders in this game and how hot you were when you came off the bench.
Well, I don't know if it's rescuing, but just being ready to play. That's my role in coming here, is to go out when the opportunity presents itself and to execute. And, you know, I've been on the sidelines the whole game and saw what they were doing. They gave us a steady diet of strong cloud, and so we just hit our guys. But, you know, I wouldn't be the same if I wouldn't thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for giving us the opportunity.
You're the consummate relief quarterback. Quickly, is that how you see yourself?
Well, I don't know, but, you know, what we have to do as a team is just be ready to play each and every week, and whatever role I can play to get a win, I'm here.
Thank you for your time, Danny. Congratulations.
All right, thank you.
So Danny Barrett and the Calgary Stampeders celebrating a 30-23 victory, and we'll return to McMahon Stadium in Calgary to conclude the proceedings in just a moment.